Hello everyone, and welcome back to another video. This is the 33rd episode of the story, where Naruto is raised by Jiraiya and Tsunade. Remember to like, share, and subscribe to the channel after watching the video. So, let us begin. Despite the size of the Akatsuki's army, it seemed that they were afraid of going all out. They sent white Zetsu clones in relatively small squads, sometimes supported by one or two reanimations. The Alliance's initial guess was that Akatsuki was testing the waters, so to speak, before sending a larger attack force. And said larger attack force came sooner than they expected, and definitely not in the way they imagined. The sensor division detected a large mass of chakra traveling underground, and immediately realized that an army of Zetsu wanted to go under them unnoticed. Unfortunately for them, such thing wouldn't happen. Kuratsuchi managed to move her second division en route to intercept this large attack force. It would be the first true battle of the Fourth Ninja War. "Everybody, stand back, and prepare to attack when I force them out," the young Tsuchikage commanded, as she took a step forward, and made several hand seals, before slamming both hands into the ground. Earth release, opening earth rising excavation. The effect was immediate. The ground in front of Kuratsuchi started to violently shake, as cracks started to form, with large chunks of earth being violently displaced. From said cracks, hundreds upon hundreds of white Zetsu clones were hurled into the air, much to their shock and confusion. "Everybody, attack now," Kuratsuchi ordered, before clapping her hands together. "I'll oversee the battle from above, and provide aerial support." Earth release, lightweight boulder jutsu. Kuratsuchi's feet stopped touching the ground as she elevated into the air, slowly at first, faster later, and in a few seconds, she was a good 20 meters above the battleground, which provided her with perfect view of the battle to happen. This was one of the two jutsu she had now that identified as the Tsuchikage, since only those who wore that hat were made privy of their secrets. The lightweight boulder jutsu was created by the first Tsuchikage, and only passed it down to his eventual successor, Mu, which in turn passed it down to Inoki, and Inoki down to her. Some ninjas asked why isn't the jutsu taught to every IWA ninja. With an air force, IWA would reign supreme over the rest of the ninja villages. However, the Tsuchikages pointed out that making such thing would risk the jutsu to fall into the hands of foreign ninjas, which in turn would create an air force of their own. Hence why it was decided that only the Tsuchikages would be the ones to have this jutsu. "And from here, I can attack without fear of retaliation," Kuratsuchi said to no one in particular, as her gloved hands weaved hand seals. Fire release, blazing meteors. The young Tsuchikage breathed a volley of massive fireballs at the white Zetsu clones, some of them who had just gotten up and prepared to attack, resulting in a chain of explosions that engulfed them in domes of fire, making the ground shake even further. Seconds after this, the second division engaged the Zetsu army in close combat. Mountain Graveyard. So far, there were only two people left on the unofficial Akatsuki headquarters, Orochimaru, who was directing and coordinating all the zombies on the different battlegrounds, and Obito, who was keeping an eye on the unreliable Sannin. That moment, a white Zetsu clone emerged from one of the walls next to Obito. "Boss, I have bad news," the clone began. "The division that was traveling underground towards Konoha has been busted. They're engaged with the enemy as we speak, and are in need of reinforcements." "A pity. Though it was a result I was expecting," Obito said, shaking his head. "Tell the special divisions to move towards the battleground." "Understood, boss," the clone said, as he vanished into the wall. "Orochimaru," Obito told the Sannin, who made no effort to acknowledge the Uchiha. "You should send several of your reanimations there if you have some nearby." "Of course, Obito-kun. I have this group stationed near their position that will be of great help," Orochimaru gushed, as he made a hand seal. "Bloodline Limit Squad, proceed to the designated coordinates. Land of Fire, 8 trigrams, 64 palms." Niji prepared the Hyuga clan's signature combo as several white Zetsu clones converged upon him, 2 strikes. 4 strikes. 8 strikes. 16 strikes. 32 strikes. 64 strikes. Each Zetsu didn't take more than 2 or 3 well-placed strikes to go down. They wouldn't die, but they would be knocked out for quite some time, allowing the Alliance some time to breathe. And Niji didn't seem to be the only one having an easy time with them. Konoha Whirlwind. With a roundhouse kick so powerful it raised a gust of wind in every direction, Lee beheaded several Zetsu clones ganging up on him. It seems that Akatsuki plans to beat us with quantity rather than quality, Lee commented. These creatures don't put much of a fight, not even in large numbers. Yeah. Tenten agreed, as he impaled an attacking Zetsu with a Naginata. I remember fighting them alongside Hakukuen and Karen when we rescued Rin. They weren't very strong back then, and they didn't get any stronger in the meantime. Still, you better not drop your guard. Guy warned them, as he also clobbered 2 Zetsu clones. This might be an enemy ploy to make us confident, and strike us down with greater force. Suddenly, Niji's Byakugan picked up something. A mass of chakra coming from below. The earth suddenly started to rumble. What's going on? An earth jutsu? Lee asked. No. Something's coming from underground. Something big. Niji warned. The ground burst open across the battlefield, and more Zetsu joined the battle. However, these Zetsu were not like the ones they'd been fighting until now. They were twice as tall, had an extremely muscular upper body, and had 4 massive arms sprouting from their shoulders. There was a moment of shock that spread among the whole battlefield, as the allied ninja tried to process what was this new enemy. Just what the hell are those? Tenten asked, clutching her Naginata. I don't know. But I saw similar beings during the Akatsuki invasion of Konoha, Niji told her. Be careful, their chakra levels are much higher than the normal clones. Alright, let's test then if they're as strong as they really look. Lee excitedly said, wasting no time and dashing towards the closest of the larger Zetsu clones. Lee, wait. Don't go on your own. Tenten cried, as she and Niji went after him. Konoha drop. Lee leaped forward, spinning vertically mid-air, and delivered a falling kick to the big Zetsu's head. Despite the power behind the attack, the Zetsu barely reacted to the kick, and smiled heavily at Lee. Gritting his teeth, Lee tried to punch him in the face, but his much larger enemy caught the green-clad ninja's fist in his massive hand, and squeezed it hard. Does it hurt, Konoha scum? The giant Zetsu taunted, his smile unwavering. Not as much as this. Lee let out a short squeak as the giant Zetsu hurled him upwards with his immense strength, ready to smash Lee against the ground and turn him to pulp. Konoha strong hurricane. Suddenly, there was a green blur, and the arm the giant Zetsu was using to grab Lee was severed from the rest of his body, allowing Lee to land on the ground safely. Thank you, Gai-sensei. Lee energically said. This is why I told you to keep your guard up, Gai said in a mostly chastising tone. It's obvious that the enemy has more assets under their sleeve than mere numbers. It might be the case, as I'm fixing 4 more chakra signatures, Niji warned his teammates. More mutated Zetsu clones? Tenten guessed. Niji shook his head. No, these appear to be humans. Reanimations, if I were to make a guess. Just 4, but each of them has an exceptionally powerful chakra. Alright, whatever comes, we'll deal with it as a team. Keep your guard up, and cover each other's back. Guy told his students, who nodded in return. On another part of the battlefield, Sasuke and Itachi were fighting together against the coming horde of white Zetsu clones, and as anybody would expect, they weren't having any trouble dealing with them, numbers be damned. Even the larger variants only proved to be a slightly bigger challenge to the unstoppable Uchiha duo. How are you going, Sasuke? Itachi asked, as he tossed a bunch of shuriken in an arc. Each of the steel stars embedded themselves inside a Zetsu clone's forehead, ending their lives instantly. Good, good, Sasuke replied, as he dodged a mighty blow from a mutant Zetsu, packing so much power it opened a small crater on the ground. These things provide a better challenge than the normal ones. Challenge this, Uchiha, the huge Zetsu growled, his voice low and guttural. Would release, great spear tree. Sharp, thick roots emerged from underground, and lunged at Sasuke, trying to impale the youngest Uchiha. Sasuke merely jumped back while making several hand seals, and then pulled several shuriken from his ninja tool pouch. He infused the shuriken with fire chakra before tossing them forward. Fire release, Phoenix Flower Scarlet Claw. The burning shuriken flew forward, easily cutting through the growing roots, leaving a trail of burning wood behind, before stabbing themselves into the mutant Zetsu's skin. Jiraiya, the abomination screamed as the burning metal stars cut his flesh open. I take that back, this guy isn't much of a challenge either, Sasuke cockily said, as he made more hand seals. Let's finish dash, plasma release, light of death. Suddenly, the mutant Zetsu's upper body blew up like a bomb, his burning flesh splattering around him, as an orange chakra beam pierced through him. However, said beam didn't stop there, as it continued its way towards a dumbfounded Sasuke. What the dash? Sasuke! Itachi yelled, as he rushed towards him. Almost instinctively, Sasuke activated Susanoo, and purple ghostly ribcage formed around the younger Uchiha, enveloping him like a protective barrier, just in time before the beam could reach him. The beam produced a huge explosion upon hitting its mark that engulfed the Uchiha, before the shockwave violently hurled his body backwards, landing on his back with a couple of thuds. Sasuke! Itachi repeated, struck by panic, as he rushed to assist his younger brother. The explosion left multiple burns across his body and clothes, but given that he was trying to get back on his feet, the harm wasn't as bad as the older brother feared. Sasuke! Are you okay? I've been better, the younger brother sourly replied. Where did that, Itachi, watch out? Plasma release, light of death. As Itachi turned around, he started to make hand seals as fast as his hand allowed him. Water release, water bullet jutsu. Just like Itachi expected the moment he heard Sasuke's warning, another orange chakra beam was coming at them. This time, however, Itachi managed to form a jutsu to counter it in time. Exhaling a stream of water from his mouth, Itachi's jutsu met the destructive beam before it could strike either of the Uchiha. However, the beam proved to be the stronger attack, as it pushed Itachi's water jutsu backwards, generating clouds of steam as a side effect. What? I could swear that jutsu has a fire component, yet my water attack is failing to stop it. Itachi thought in distress as he poured even more chakra into his jutsu. Itachi's salvation, however, came in the form of Sasuke, who joined his brother as he made more hand seals. Lightning release, thunderbolt. A mass of lightning bottles flew from Sasuke's hand, combining with Itachi's water stream. The electrified water was able to push the orange beam back, which quickly lost its momentum and disappeared. Thank you, Sasuke, Itachi replied, panting a little. How did you know that lightning could stop that jutsu? It didn't look like an earth jutsu. Though that would explain why water was ineffective. It wasn't. That's plasma release, a combination between fire and lightning. You had the right idea with the water jutsu, but the lightning component of the combination needed to be neutralized in some way as well, Sasuke explained. Wait, plasma release? Wasn't the clan that had that blood limit wiped out during the Warring States period? Itachi asked. That's right, Uchiha scum, a new voice said. But the gods were kind enough to return me to the land of the living so I could avenge my fallen clan. Itachi and Sasuke turned around to see a man in his late 30s, wearing dark red clothes under a black antiquated armor. He had pale skin, black hair tied into a slipknot, and the cracked skin and black eyes common in reanimations. Let me guess you're a member of the Satoka clan, aren't you? Sasuke guessed. The man smirked. It's good to see that we haven't been forgotten. Yes, my name is Akashi Sotoku, last head of the Sotoku clan. So, Orochimaru got his hands on DNA from somebody who died before the ninja villages even existed, Itachi said in realization. I have to admit that the man is quite methodical. Right now, I wish he wasn't, Sasuke dryly replied. Akashi started to make hand seals. He held two fingers in front of his eyes, which started to crackle with orange sparks. Now turn to ashes. Plasma release. Light of death. Akashi jabbed his two fingers forward, releasing another orange beam of destruction. Sasuke and Itachi decided that it was best to dodge this time, and jumped in opposite directions. Akashi's beam carved a furrow on the ground as it moved while creating a wall of fire, and killing several white Zetsu clones and Alliance ninjas that were accidentally caught in its wake. Such destructive jutsu, Itachi said in awe. Plasma is the combination of fire and lightning, Sasuke explained. The two most destructive basic elements form the most destructive bloodline. Fighting this guy isn't going to be easy. If I can get close to him, I can seal him with the sword of Tatsuka, Itachi replied. Sasuke, you should fall back and see a medic need to treat those wounds. There's no way I'm going to leave you alone against this guy, Sasuke insisted. Besides, my wounds aren't that bad. They sting a little, but I can continue. You cannot beat me, Uchiha. I have returned from the grave to punish your kind for your sins. I'm the demon of the Sotoku clan. Akashi boasted, as he prepared to attack once again. Meanwhile, at another part of the battleground, Maki's team was fighting alongside other ninjas against the hordes of white Zetsu. While the strongest ninjas could dispatch them with ease, in large numbers they proved to be a formidable challenge. And a particularly large number of them were heading towards the Suna ninjas. Alright Yukata-chan, time for our combo. Matsuri said, as she took a step forward, as she started to make hand seals. Right behind you, Matsuri-chan, the bubbly Suna Kunoichi replied, mimicking Matsuri. Fire release, Great Dragon Fire. Wind release, Great Breakthrough. Yukata exhaled a stream of flames from her mouth, while Matsuri exhaled a powerful gale of wind from her. Both attacks merged, the wind fanning the flames, resulting in a massive wall of fire that caught the incoming white Zetsu clones. Some of them were able to jumbo back, and others were smart enough to hide underground, but those closest to the fire were engulfed by it, their bodies quickly reduced to ashes. Good job, girl. That will give us some room to breathe. Maki praised her two students. Indeed, the girls' combination attack broke the Zetsu's charge and sent them into a disarray, which was taken advantage by their fellow allied ninja. Everybody, move. We need to push these creatures back, an IWA ninja said, as he led a charge towards the dazed white Zetsu clones. Let's dash, but his words died on his throat as a round, orange fireball landed upon him, resulting in a huge explosion that engulfed both him and a few ninjas close to him. When the explosion ceased, they could see that the bodies weren't charred or carbonized but mummified. As if the water inside their bodies had been instantly boiled. What was that? Yukata asked. Where did that attack came from? Mikashi asked. Maki, however, already saw the effect of such attack before, and much to her worry, had a pretty good idea of what they were going against. Everybody, behind me. Maki ordered, and paled upon seeing more of those weird fireballs were about to fall on a group of ninjas in front of her. Maki, however, could only save a couple of them. Clothing binding jutsu. Maki shot two bands of clothes from inside her sleeves, wrapped themselves around the waists of two kunoichi, one from Kiri and another from Kumo, if their uniforms were any indication, and yanked them backwards a second before another explosion could claim their lives. Thanks, nice save, the Kiri kunoichi replied, panting a little. It was a close one indeed. You have nice reflexes, the Kumo kunoichi praised. I'm Ran, by the way. Ruka, the Kiri kunoichi said. Maki, Maki replied. And these are my students. Unfortunately, we'll have to leave the introductions for later. We're not out of danger yet. Maki looked at a figure that walked through the cloud of smoke raised by the explosions. Once she was visible, they could see it was another woman. Pretty tall, with green hair styled in a bun, two bangs framing each side of her face, said bangs colored orange. She was wearing a sleeveless black top, a white obi tied around her waist, and short black pants. You were lucky to escape my wrath, Kiri scum. But luck won't smile upon you a second time, the woman said, as she formed a couple of those fireballs on each hand. As she walked towards the group, her eyes rested on Maki, and stopped on her tracks. Wait a minute, those purple marks, Maki, is that you? Indeed I am, Bakura-sensei, Maki replied. After your death, I always wished to be able to see you one last time. Needless to say, I'm regretting that wish. Bakura-sensei? Maki's three students shouted in unison, before Mikashi asked, the legendary Bakura of the Scorch release was your sensei? How is that you never told us about that? Matsuri asked, sounding almost indignant. I had my reasons. I promise I'll explain you later. Maki said, her eyes never leaving Bakura. However, you need to go away. Face an easier opponent, leave her to me. She's an extremely dangerous foe. What? Yukata asked, indignant. You can't ask us to leave you alone against her, sensei. I'm not asking, I'm commanding you to. Don't forget that you're my subordinates, the Suna Jonin said in a scathing tone. Now stay away from Bakura and the other reanimated enemies. Let the more experienced ninjas handle them. We better listen to Maki-sensei, Mikashi said, thought there was some resignation on his voice. Come on, girls. Maki-sensei will be okay. Now that they didn't have an unified front, Matsuri and Yukata were forced to give up, and she and Mikashi leaped away, leaving Maki and the other two kunoichi alone against the Scorch release user. You did the right thing sending your students away, Maki. They looked a bit too young and green, and I'd hate killing fellow Suna ninjas, Bakura said, as her eyes drifted towards Ruka. That Kiri scum, on the other hand, I'll be more than happy to send her to the afterlife. Displaying astounding speed, Bakura dashed towards the dumbstruck Ruka with a fireball on each hand, who yelped in shock, before once again being yanked away by a strap of cloth, removing her from the jutsu's way. Bakura saw in surprise and anger that Maki and Ran had jumped in the opposite direction, while the former wrapped a strap of cloth around Ruka's waist. Whoa! Thanks again. Ruka said. Second time you saved me in less than 5 minutes. Why did you save her? Bakura angrily demanded. She's a Kiri ninja. I died to Kiri ninja. Your father died to Kiri ninja too. Hell, that was the reason you wanted to be a ninja to begin with. Times have changed, sensei, Maki solemnly said. In case you didn't realize, the 5 great villages are fighting together under a single banner against an enemy that threatens the whole world. The same enemy that took you from your rest in the afterlife and turned you into their slave. We can't allow old grudges to get in the way. Yeah, and they will stab you in the back once they no longer need you. Bakura hotly repeated, as she started to make hand seals. Scorch release, blazing heatwave. Bakura started to glow with a golden-orange light, before said light burst into a wave of intense heat that exploded upwards, burning the grassy ground as it expanded. The trio of kunoichi found themselves forced to jump backwards in order to avoid the lethal attack, but Ruka made several hand seals as well. Water release, water wall. Ruka expelled a torrent of water from her mouth, but much to her shock, the water evaporated instantly, turning into a cloud of steam, while barely stopping Bakura's attack. A water jutsu. You must think you're so clever, you Kiri bitch, Bakura seethed. No wonder you chose to stab me in the back when you fooled me into dropping my guard. You scum can't beat me in a fair fight. This time, it was Ran who decided to attack. She quickly made a couple of hand seals, before pulling out several shuriken. Lightning release, lightning shuriken. The Kumo Kunoichi tossed a handful of steel stars at Pakura, which crackled with electricity as they fell towards its target, making whirring noises. Pakura, however, was going to respond in kind, her hands flying through hand seals. Wind release, breakthrough. Pakura exhaled a powerful wind current that not only stopped the shuriken with ease, but pushed them backwards. And you aren't that much better, Pakura said, looking at Ran with disdain. You should know that Scorch combines fire and wind beats lightning. Damn it, Ran gritted her teeth, before looking at Maki. Maki-san, how do we beat her then, if our elemental ninjutsu is useless against her? Scorch release is a combination of fire and wind, but what most people don't realize is that it's not fire, but extremely hot air, Maki explained. That's why water on its own is useless against it. In order to beat heat, you need cold. So ice release? Ran asked. Ruka's face lit up. The Konohakiri ambassador, Haku Yuki, has ice release, she said in realization. However, all enthusiasm left her just as quickly when she realized of something else. But he's been assigned to another division. Fortunately, we won't need Haku-kun to win this battle for us, Maki confidently said. Next time Pakura-sensei attacks, prepare another water jutsu. Ran, you get ready to attack. But the last time I did that, it didn't work. Ruka protested. Don't argue, just do as I say. Nobody knows Pakura-sensei better than I. Maki firmly stated. Here she comes. Scorch release, extremely steaming murder. Pakura dashed towards the trio of Kunoichi, holding a sun-like orb on each hand, and Thursdaying them forward. The allied Kunoichi jumped back, while Ruka and Mai started to make hand seals. Water release, water wall. Wind release, gale palm. Ruka exhaled another torrent of water towards the incoming golden orbs, while Maki clapped her hands before thrusting them forward, releasing a powerful gale. Maki's wind fanned Ruka's water stream, turning it into a tornado of water that filled the air with thousands of tiny droplets. And much to Pakura's surprise, her orbs of heated air quickly shrunk until they finally vanished, leaving nothing but a cloud of steam behind. What? Pakura asked. Ran, now. Maki urged. The Kumo Kunuchi quickly rushed towards the momentarily shocked Pakura as she made hand seals as fast as her dexterity allowed her, before unsheathing her tanto, which began to crackle with electricity. Lightning release, thunder blade. In two swing motions, Ran's electrified blade slashed Pakura's forearms, producing two small bursts of ash and paper bits. Ruka then pulled out a kunai with an explosive note attached, and threw it at Pakura's feet. The explosive tag detonated instantly, blowing up Pakura's legs and hurling her backwards. Yes. We did it. Ruka cheered, pumping her fists into the air. We took down such a legendary kunoichi. I'll go and seal her right now with my jutsu, Maki said. You two stay close and cover me. You got it. As you say. The trio of kunoichi walked towards Pakura, who was lying on the ground, motionless. As expected, her arms and legs were slowly regenerating. But they wouldn't regenerate in time for her to continue the fight. Sorry, Pakura-sensei. It pains me seeing how you weren't even allowed to rest in peace. But don't worry, this will be over. Maki, watch out. Explosion release, landmine fist. The trio of allied Lenoichi jumped back in time just before another reanimated ninja landed between them fist first. When his fist touched the ground, it produced a huge explosion that would have obliterated them hadn't been for Pakura's warning. When the cloud of the explosion dispelled, they could see it was a man with long spiky brown hair and a square jaw. His uniform and forehead protector tied on his arm identified him as an IWA ninja. Damn, Pakura, why did you have to warn them? The new ninja said, clicking his tongue. You just robbed me of a 3-for-1. You almost killed my apprentice, Gari, you piece of shit. Bakura said, as she finished her regeneration. If you weren't dead already and I had control over my actions. But our situation is nothing like that, so your threats are empty, Gari nonchalantly said, before turning at the trio of allied kunoichi. You should do like me and try to make the best of a bad situation. Since we are forced to fight, why not have some fun? Are all explosion release users this deranged, or it's just you? Bakura angrily asked. Did she said explosion release? Ran asked. I don't like the sound of that, Ruka whimpered. Bakura alone proved to be a formidable opponent. There's no way we can match two immortal ninjas with bloodline limits, Maki assessed. Let's fall back and see if we can join forces with other ninja. We will engage them when our odds of victory are better. Ruka and Ran nodded in agreement, and the trio of allied kunoichi leaped back in order to rejoin with their comrades, followed by the two reanimated ninjas. As the other battles raged on, Gai's squad continued to fight against the white Zetsu clones. On top of the larger variants, a new kind of Zetsu had appeared. This kind of Zetsu had their right arms replaced by a mass of interwoven wooden vines, cropped by a flower. Their backs had sacs of an unknown substance connected by more vines to the arm. Their method of attack involves firing yellow projectiles of what appeared to be corrosive spores compressed into small bullets. Here comes another volley. Niji warned. Everybody, watch out. And as the Hyuga said, a rain of corrosive bullets fell upon the allied ninja. Many were able to dodge the deadly projectiles, while others weren't so lucky, and the spores ate through their skin. Niji, do you locate the snipers? Tenten asked, trying to look around while fending off incoming normal white Zetsu clones. We can't fight like this. I just found some of them hidden among the trees. Niji said, fighting as well. In that case, guide us to them so we can stop them from harassing us from afar. Lee shouted, as he delivered a roundhouse kick to a group of clones. Sure, follow, WHOA. Niji said, as he jumped back, barely avoiding a lightning bolt from striking him. I'm picking up a new chakra signature. Very powerful. Everybody, stay on guard. Wind started to blow, as more lightning bolts came somewhere behind the trees. Between the Zetsu snipers and this new enemy, the allied forces were on a pinch. However, Niji wasn't going to let the enemy control the pace of the combat. Lee, Tenten, Gai-sensei, I'm going to make this new enemy to come out. Niji called, as his body shimmered with chakra. Gate of opening, open. Multiple vacuum palms. Thursdaying his arms back and forth, Niji shot a barrage of vacuum shells at the point where the lightning release user was hidden. And just like Niji expected, he, or better said, she, was forced to come out from her hiding spot into the open. A woman with dark skin and long white hair, wearing a kumogakure flak jacked under a long and elegant light blue battle kimono. Guy and Lee prepared to attack, their bodies also glowing with chakra as they started to open celestial gates. Lee, now. Guy said, as he and his protege leaped at her. Double Konoha dash, Tempest release, Blades of Light. The Kumo reanimation generated two swords which appeared to be made of light, and swung them at the green-clad ninjas. Even if they were mid-air, Guy and Lee were able to dodge the attack by sending a burst of chakra through their feet, allowing them to change direction and maneuver around the attack, before they landed on the ground again. We avoided her in time, Guy said, looking at the swords of light with narrowed eyes. He didn't know what they were, but they looked dangerous. Lee, are you okay? Lee appeared to be unscathed, but a small cut opened on his cheek, and a thread of blood trickled down from it. Lee wiped the blood from his finger, before staring at their new opponent. I am, Gai-sensei. But it's been a close one, Lee commented. They were soon joined by Niji and Tenten, the two of them already on fighting stances, ready to face the new opponent. In all my years as a ninja, I've never seen anybody able to dodge my Tempest Release Jutsu like that, the woman said. One has to be faster than lightning in order to do so. Yes, all of us train to be as fast and strong as our bodies allow us to be. And then some, Guy told the woman. Tempest Release, Niji repeated. The combination of wind and lightning. It produces jutsu with unmatched cutting power and speed. That's the bloodline limit of the Tokimune clan. I see you know about us. Even if Kumo isn't that big on clan culture or promoting clans over the individual. You can call me Sayu, Sayu Tokimune, Sayu said, making a bow. I have nothing against you, Konoha ninjas, but I'm afraid I have no choice but fight you to the best of my ability. The commands of the one who resurrected me are impossible to ignore. Tempest Release, Razor Starfall. Sayu clapped her hands together before making a hand seal. Silver sparkles started to appear around her body, before they shot forward in the form of a barrage of glowing needles. Everybody, behind me. Niji warned, as he started to spin in place while releasing chakra from every single point of his body. Heavenly Spin. Niji turned into a spinning dome of chakra that successfully deflected the incoming barrage of glowing needles. When Niji's spinning started to lose speed, the green-clad Jonin knew they had to go on the offensive, or else their foe would control the pace of the fight. Good job, Niji, now it's our turn to attack. Guy excitedly said, as he rushed towards the white-haired woman, with Lee and Tenten behind him. I'd advise you not to get close to me if you expect to come out of this fight alive, Sayu calmly said, as she made more hand seals. Tempest Release, Blades of Light. This time, 2 blades made of light appeared on each hand of the Kumo reanimation, and swung them to strike the incoming Guy and Lee. However, much to her surprise, Tenten appeared in front of her, a katana crackling with electricity on each hand, and parried the twin blows. The 2 kunoichi struggled against each other, until Tenten's swords were cut in half. Your speed is impressive, and you had the foresight of channeling elemental chakra through your weapons to counter my attack, Sayu praised. Even if her tone didn't change. However, with just one element dash, double Konoha whirlwind. Both Guy and Lee delivered a brutal kick to the kunoichi's chest, sending her hurling backwards, and making her to release her energy swords into the air. However, rather than falling on her back with a loud thud, Sayu used the force of the kicks to do a backflip, and landed gracefully on her feet. And as a final touch, she casually caught the swords of light as they landed. Clever maneuver, Sayu praised once again. Will you be able to do it again? Tempest Release, All-Cutting Crescent Moon. Sayu swung her light swords in arcs in opposite ways, creating a crescent-shaped energy blast that flew forwards in a straight line, slicing the trees and rocks that it found in its way like they were made of butter, without losing any kind of momentum. Guy's team paled upon seeing the destructive power of such attack. Everybody, watch out! Niji shouted, warning not only his teammates, but the allied ninjas that were fighting Zetsu clones and other reanimations around him. Do not let that jutsu touch you under any circumstances. Thankfully, most ninjas that heard Niji were able to disengage and jump away in time in order to avoid the attack. Others weren't so lucky, and were caught in the area of effect. While some allied ninjas and Zetsu clones only lost either an arm or a leg, the less fortunate ones were cleanly cut in half, dying almost instantly. The cutting power of her attacks is too great. Any idea on how are we going to counter it? Lee asked, as he eyed the Kumo reanimation. Tempest is the combination between wind and lightning. We'd need wind and fire to stop it, Niji replied. And sadly, the only member of our squad that uses elemental ninjutsu is Tenten, and she only knows lightning jutsu. In that case, we have no option but dodge her attacks and try to get close to her, Lee guessed. We already did it once, I'm sure we can do it again. Meanwhile, Sayu made a chain of hand seals as she prepared her next attack. Unfortunately, this jutsu isn't as easy to block as the ones before, Sayu warned, and slammed her hands into the ground once she made all the seals. Tempest Release, Slash of the white tiger. Suddenly, 5 vertical blades of light emerged from Sayu's hands, moving forward. They grew in size as they advanced, while carving 5 furrows onto the ground. The gap between each blade also grew bigger as they moved, with arcs of lightning jumping between each blade. The effect was as if a giant beast was slashing the ground with an invisible paw. "I'll try to stop it," Niji said, as he rushed forward to meet the deadly attack in the middle. Gate of Healing, open. Gate of Life, open. Niji, wait. Lee tried to stop his teammate, but it was in vain. Heavenly Spinning Lotus. Niji turned into a blue and green chakra dome of spinning chakra, much larger than the normal heavenly spin, and moved to intercept the attack. The 5 vertical blades crashed against the spinning dome, both attacks trying to grind each other, until the former started to push the latter back. Niji released even more chakra and increased the rotation speed in return. Even tally, it proved to be too much, and the 5 blades of light shattered in a million dots of light. Still, Niji didn't stop. He advanced towards the Kumo reanimation, carving a large furrow as he moved. A heavenly spin that allows the user to move while he's casting it. "I fought many Hyugas when I was alive, yet none of them managed to push their clan's taijutsu to such levels," Sayu complimented, as she started to make hand seals. "Let's see if you did something about that glaring weakness of yours." Lightning release, lightning flash. Sayu's body crackled with electricity for a second, before it was engulfed by a massive and bright flash of light. The effect was immediate, and Niji abruptly stopped spinning, tripping on his feet before falling to the ground, hands clutching his eyes. "My eyes!" Niji shouted in pain, as tears of pain streamed from his hurt eyes. "I see not." "Disappointing," Sayu said mostly to herself, shaking her head. She started to make hand seals again. "Unfortunately, you won't have the chance to dash." Suddenly, several kunai landed around her, stabbing themselves into the ground with a thud each, followed by Ten, already making a hand seal. Each kunai had an explosive tag attached to them, which was already burning, and a couple seconds later, Sayu found herself engulfed by a chain of explosions. "Well done, Ten," Guy praised, as he and Lee landed behind her. Lee quickly but carefully helped Niji back on his feet. "Thanks, but I'm afraid something so basic won't be able to keep her down," Ten said, her eyes fixed on the cloud of smoke. And indeed, just like she said, a powerful gust of wind dispelled the cloud of smoke, revealing Sayu, her arms wide open, and her damaged body slowly regenerating. "It's okay, you already did enough," Guy told Ten, before turning at Lee and Ten. "Stay with Niji until his sight gets better." "Yes, Guy-sensei," Ten replied, nodding. "She's a formidable opponent, Guy-sensei." "Won't you need our help?" Lee questioned. "You're right, Lee, she's a magnificent adversary. But don't worry, since now that I saw how her jutsu works, I know the perfect way to counter it," Guy told him, as he pulled out a pair of nunchakus from his backpack. Ten, I need you to stay close to seal that reanimation once I incapacitate her." "Understood, Guy-sensei." "Please be careful," Ten said before she and Lee took Niji away, leaving Guy alone against the white-haired woman. Guy walked calmly towards the Kumo reanimation, a confident grin on his face, while skillfully twirling his nunchakus around. Sayu saw this, and raised an eyebrow. "So, you plan to beat me all by yourself?" Sayu asked, cocking her head to the side. "No matter how good you are with those weapons, they won't be enough to beat my bloodline limit." "Then I'll be more than happy to prove you wrong," Guy excitedly said. Gate of Pain, open. A blue aura appeared around the green-clad Jonin the moment he opened the fourth gate, as chakra poured from every pore of his body, raising gusts of wind in every direction. "An impressive power-up. Let's see if it can really help you," Sai replied, as her hand started to fly through hand seals. Tempest Release, Deadly Light Blossom. Sayu pulled several shuriken from her ninja tool pouch, and infused them with both lightning and wind, before tossing them at Guy. The two elements combined, granting the shuriken a star-shaped aura, greatly increasing their cutting range. It reminded Guy of Naruto's Raisin Shuriken. They even made a similar loud whirring noise. Guy rushed forward, while channeling chakra through his nunchakus, while he made them spin at an even faster pace, producing a strong wind current. Using his enhanced weapons, he quickly deflected the incoming elemental shuriken away, careful they weren't towards areas with allied ninjas fighting. You deflected my all-cutting shuriken? Impossible! Sayu cried, as she made more hand seals. This is something you won't be able to deflect. Tempest Release, Razor Starfall. Casting her hands forward after clapping them together, Sayu sent a storm of light needles towards Guy. Guy had to admit she was right, there's no way he could deflect projectiles so tiny, some of them would slip past him. Fortunately, he had another way to counter the attack. I don't need to deflect your jutsu if it never gets close to touch me, Guy said, as he started to twirl his nunchakus at an even faster speed, before facing them towards Sayu. Winds of youth, blow everything away. The nunchakus spun so fast, they started to raise a very powerful gust of wind, taking the shape of two tornadoes. The light needles caught in the wind quickly slowed down, until they disappeared completely. None of them managed to reach the green-clad Jonin. The Razor Starfall too? How can you nullify all my jutsu? Sayu asked in disbelief. People tend to look up to ninjutsu and underestimate taijutsu, and they don't realize that there's more to taijutsu than just punching and kicking. Guy shouted, as he took a fighting stance. I let you attack me twice, now I believe it's my turn to strike. Guy crossed the gap between the two of them in less than a second, and swung his nunchaku at the Kyumo reanimation. However, the white-haired woman was fast enough to generate a blade made of wind ANF lightning on each hand, parrying Guy's swings. Don't think I'm harmless in close combat just because I'm a ninjutsu specialist, Sayu said, as she and Guy traded blows. I would never dream to underestimate an opponent, much less one as formidable as you. Guy replied. But this is over now. In a quick motion, Guy crouched and delivered a low kick to her claves, making her fall on her back. But before her back touched the ground, Guy kicked her once again into the sky. He then leaped after her, and wrapped his arms and legs around his body. The two of them started to spin as gravity pulled them towards the ground. Front Lotus. Guy released Sayu just before she smashed against the ground, opening a crater when she crashed down. Her whole body appeared to be shattered, with all four limbs separated from her body. It slowly began to regenerate, but not in time before stopping them from sealing her. It is done, Guy said, looking at his fallen opponent. 10-10. Team Guy's only kunoichi landed beside her teacher a few seconds after being called. Without being told what to do, she immediately pulled multiple sealing tags, some chakra suppressing and others body immobilizing, and started to place them on Sayu before she could regenerate completely. You were a fantastic adversary, Konoha ninja, Sayu praised Guy. I wish I could have fight you in life, under different circumstances. My feelings are the same, Guy replied. I know the enemy brought many past ninjas who would be a formidable opponent. Too bad everything that's at stake will stop me from enjoying beating such foes. Take joy in peace, not in battle, Konoha Jonin, Sayu told him, as she felt the seals disabling her body and chakra. Now do me a favor and help end this war so my fellow Kyumo nin can return home safe. It's done, Tenten said. What should we do with her? Somebody should take her to the rear guard, so she can be properly safekept, Guy told her. Why don't you do it yourself, sensei? Opening the gates must have leave you a little winded, while I'm still pretty fresh, Tenten suggested. What? And leave my students alone in the middle of a battle? That would be mostly unyouthful, and there's no way explosion release Guy was silenced when he noticed the glare Tenten was shooting at him. Guy-sensei, you did a lot here. So take her away and rest a little. Niji, Lee, and I may be your students, but we aren't little kids anymore. We will be fine, Tenten chastised the older man. A good ninja always recognizes a battle he can't win, Guy said in resignation, but in good humor. He threw Sayu's body over his shoulder and leaped away. I'll be back as soon as possible. Allied Ninja HQ inside the Allied headquarters, Supreme Commander Jiraiya and the military experts and advisors brought by the other villages were contemplating the course of the battles and devising strategies according to them. A multitude of sensory ninja had been linked together through a machine and were using their expanded senses to monitor how the battles were going. So far, there were only minor skirmishes going on, with the exception of Kuratsuchi's 2nd Division, which were fighting a large force of Akatsuki, and could be considered a real battle. Supreme Commander, news from Kuratsuchi. AO shouted. The 2nd Division is losing ground against the enemy. New mutant variants of the Zetsu clones with increased strength and ranged capabilities are giving them some trouble. Plus several reanimated ninja with powerful bloodline limits. Even if one of them have been defeated, the number of casualties has been high. Should we divert some troops from other divisions in order to reinforce her position? Anoki suggested. Even if he was trying to hide it, one could tell he was worried for his granddaughter. I suspect that's what the enemy is expecting us to do, Chio replied. Then they'll move to attack our less reinforced positions. We can't allow them to do that. While I agree with Chio-san, Shikaku said. We can't afford to lose ground so early in the war. We need to find a way to reinforce their position without compromising our other fronts. Jiraiya, however, smirked confidently. That's why I decided to keep our strongest asset in standby, since I knew something like this could happen. Chio looked at Jiraiya. You plan on sending her, don't you? Indeed, Jiraiya said with a nod. Send a message to Tsunadeheim. She and a few of her medics must head towards the 2nd Division's position in order to reinforce them. Let Akatsuki be the ones to taste the power of the Rinnegan. The first battle of the ninja war continued, with neither side appearing to gain advantage over the other. Akatsuki had superior numbers, but most of the allied ninjas were individually stronger than the white Zetsu clones. Plus, the allied ninjas also had the chakra golems, whose armor resisted all but the strongest of the physical attacks, and their seals allowed them to absorb elemental ninjutsu. And thus, they were excellent at dealing with the white Zetsu clones. At least the normal ones. Some Zetsu brutes noticed the golems, and went to destroy them. While the golems were strong, the mutant Zetsu had enough muscle to tear their armors apart. These pieces of scrap will help the allied ninja no longer, a Zetsu brute yelled, as he was about to trash yet another golem. Wood release, wood binding jutsu. Suddenly, multiple vines emerged from below the giant Zetsu, and tightly wrapped around his arms, legs and body, leaving him completely immobilized. What the? I'm sorry, but Dad said those golems are quite expensive, a white-haired girl said, just as she landed in front of him. And Dad says that we must take care of expensive stuff. The golem wasted no time, and slammed its fist into the Zetsu's head, blowing it into multiple chunks of white flesh. The rest of the body lifelessly fell back on its back after the girl undid her jutsu. Nodding to herself in satisfaction, Kaida went to look for more targets. Lava release, scorching rocks jutsu. Kuratsuchi expelled a large amount of lava from her mouth, which took the shape of multiple burning boulders, spreading in an arc towards the enemies surrounding her. Some found their marks, while others missed, before falling to the ground below. However, while she was casting the jutsu, she felt a foot smashing against her back, and talons trying to pierce her flak jacket, interrupting her attack and sending her tumbling down. Shit! Kuratsuchi loudly cursed as she tried to regain her balance mid-air. As she did, she saw more aerial enemies diving at her. Right now, the Tsuchikage was fighting against yet another type of white Zetsu, one that had leather wings instead of arms, which allowed them to fly. On top of that, their feet ended in long and sharp talons, which was their main method of attack, but it wasn't the only one. Yes, you dumbass, come to me if you dare. Kuratsuchi said as she started to make hand seals before she clapped her hands together. When she brought them apart, a cube made of white light appeared between them. Dust release, atomic dismantling jutsu. Kuratsuchi sent the cube towards the incoming Zetsu, which increased its size tenfold in less than a second, catching the flying Zetsu within. The cube then flared with white light, and the Zetsu were no more. That takes care of that group, Kuratsuchi said, panting a little. Looking around, she saw dozens of those flying Zetsu converging upon her. A shitload of them remains. And they can attack me from pretty much any direction. Time to break out that jutsu then, Kuratsuchi said, as she started to make hand seals. Lava release, lava chakra armor. The air around Kuratsuchi started to ripple as heat built around the young Kage, before her body flashed with a bright red light. The next instant, her whole body was covered in an armor made of molten rock, leaving only her eyes exposed. All right, all set. Come on, assholes, come here and see if you can touch me. Kuratsuchi taunted. Much to her surprise, the flying Zetsu did so. Kuratsuchi merely raised an eyebrow and smiled under her mask of lava. You're doomed, then. Plasma release, light of death. Once again, Akashi fired his destructive orange beam at the Uchiha brothers, who dodged it by jumping in opposite directions. The beam carved yet another furrow as it moved, but this time it didn't kill anybody as collateral damage. Both the white Zetsu clones and allied ninjas learned to get away from the Sotoku clan head and let Itachi and Sasuke deal with him. Sasuke, I'm going in. Itachi said, as he rushed forward, katana in hand. Cover me. You got it. Sasuke replied, as his hands flew through hand seals. Fire release, Phoenix Sage Fire Jutsu. Sasuke exhaled a volley of fireballs in a wide arc forward, which forced the reanimation to jump back in order to avoid them. Taking advantage of that moment, Itachi's body flickered next to him and brought his sword down. However, Akashi was fast enough to block it with a kunai. You're fast, Uchiha, but you won't catch me off guard so easily. Akashi boasted, as he pulled another kunai and swung it at Itachi. The older brother parried it, before delivering another swing that was dodged. The two of them exchanged blade swipes, though it was clear that Itachi was the superior swordsman, and slowly pushed Akashi back. Your plasma release jutsu have an impressive destructive power, but they have a glaring weakness. They can't be used in close range. Itachi said, as he pressed his attack with more powerful sword swings. Don't you dare underestimate me, Uchiha. We of the Sotoku clan aren't one-trick ponies reliant on our bloodline limits. Akashi boasted. Akashi delivered a swipe with one of his kunai, which Itachi was ready to parry. However, in the last second, the kunai started to crackle with electricity as lightning chakra was channeled through it, allowing it to cut Itachi's katana as if it was made of paper. Even if Itachi was able to dodge the electric kunai, the second kunai, wreathed in flames, plunged into his chest, just below the neck. Got you. Akashi said with a sadistic smirk, as he dug the kunai even deeper. Itachi. Sasuke yelled, as he rushed to aid his brother. Itachi, however, smirked, much to the reanimation's confusion, before the older Uchiha burst into a murder of crows that started to fly around him, cawing loudly, and pestering him with pecks. What the oh, I get it, this is a fucking genjutsu. Akashi said, as he dispelled it. Too late, the real Itachi said, as he appeared behind him, his Susanoo already formed. A sword of golden flames appeared in one of the red chakra construct's arms. Sword of Tatsuka, seal. As he delivered a swing of his flaming sword, Akashi turned around, revealing an orange ball of energy that crackled with chakra. Plasma release, light of judgment. Akashi tossed the sphere at Itachi, which exploded upon touching the Uchiha's Susanoo. The chakra construct managed to absorb most of the blast, but it was shattered to pieces, and the resulting shockwave hurled Itachi against a nearby tree. You think you can catch me off guard with one of those accursed genjutsu of yours, Uchiha? Akashi said, angrily boasted. We know how to deal with your kind. That's why your miserable clan had to ally with your longtime enemies in order to dash lightning release. Thunder Blade. Crackles of electricity alerted Akashi of Sasuke's attack, and he turned around just in time to parry Sasuke's swing of his electricity-enhanced sword with a kunai empowered the same fashion. Ah, the runt, Akashi said, rolling his eyes. So, you don't want to see your brother die. Do you prefer if I kill you first, then? That moment, Sasuke's Sharingan morphed into their advanced form, as the air around them started to become much hotter. Amaterasu. Akashi burst into black flames, and the youngest Uchiha jumped backwards in order not to be burned by them, as he flinched when the memory of his near kill of Naruto washed over his body like a blanket of anguish. However, before he could cry victory, there was a small burst of smoke, and the black flames weren't consuming the plasma release user, but a mere log. A replacement? Shit. Sasuke cursed, as he looked around, lamenting having to force himself to relieve that trauma for nothing. Sasuke, to your right. Itachi called. Sasuke turned to said direction, just in time to see an orange light glowing brighter. Plasma release, light of judgment. Once again, Akashi threw a sphere of plasma at Sasuke, who dodged it the best way he could. Unfortunately, just like his brother a moment ago, he was unable to avoid the ensuing shockwave, and was hurled away. Through rather than smashing against a tree, the younger Uchiha landed on the ground on his back, bouncing multiple times before. Shit, that was, Sasuke grunted, as he tried to shake away the pain from his body. Unfortunately, he wasn't going to have time to nurse his wounds. Plasma release, light of death. Saki's Sharingan watched in horror as another orange destructive beam carved a furrow in the ground as it moved towards him, leaving a trail of flames. Even if caused him no small amount of pain, Sasuke made a hand seal and molded some chakra, and was able to use body flicker to dodge the attack before it could reduce him to cinders. Damn it, I could use Sakura or Karen right now, Sasuke complained, as he held the left side of his body. He swore he would never take his teammates for granted ever again. Sasuke. Itachi said, as he landed beside him. Are you okay? I've been better, Sasuke replied, coughing some blood. If just one guy can do so much damage, I can't imagine a whole clan of them. There's a reason as for why they were exterminated, Itachi pointed out. We can't beat this guy on our own. We'd better fall back and get some help from the main body of the division, Sasuke suggested. We can't do that. His jutsu are incredibly destructive and have a very wide area of effect. We would risk causing even more casualties to our side. We have to defeat him ourselves, Itachi stated. You're very confident in our chances, Itachi, Sasuke dryly said. I am. I know your potential, Sasuke, and if we fight together, that reanimation won't have a chance against us, Itachi assured. Can you use Susanoo? A little. I still haven't mastered it yet, Sasuke replied. I can use it, but I won't be able to keep it for long. In that case, save it if you're unable to dodge that man's jutsu. I'm alive thanks to my Susanoo cushioning the blast of that attack, Itachi said. I can end this fight in one hit. If I can stab him with the sword of Tatsuka, I can seal him permanently, and won't come back even if he's a reanimation. I don't think you'll be able to get close enough to him for that, Sasuke observed, at least not before he obliterates your Susanoo like he did before. No, if he doesn't see me coming, Itachi said. So, that means I'm going to be the distraction, don't I? Sasuke asked. It was something he wasn't looking forward to. No. Both of us will be, Itachi cryptically said. Confusion will be our greatest weapon and his downfall. Not far away from there, Maki continued the battle against her resurrected sensei, who now had the help of another reanimation. Despite trying to fall back and ask for help, the zombies wouldn't let them go much further. The Tsunade decided it was for the best to go all out. Sealing art, cloth binding armor. Whips of cloth wrapped around Maki's limbs and body, covering it completely, and leaving only her eyes visible. Huh, what's that? Gary asked, cocking his head in mild annoyance. You plan to copy the second Tsuchikage style or what? See if your Tsuchikage can do this. Maki boasted, though she immediately realized that trying to compare herself to a Kage would make her sound ridiculous. Multiple cloth razor whips. Many whips made of cloth emerged from under Maki's bandages, and lunged themselves at the two reanimations, like a bunch of angry snakes hungry for their prey. Pakura and Gari were able to dodge the attack, yet Maki was able to redirect half of the razor whips towards Pakura and the other towards Gari, and this time they were unable to dodge them. Yes! Maki cheered. However, victory was still far from her reach. Even if she aimed at their vital spots, zombies had none, and could still go on. Pakura grabbed the cloth whips, and focusing her chakra, used them to channel a stream of fire that spread through the cloth whips towards Maki. Realizing she made a mistake, Maki broke the whips that tied her to both Pakura and Gari, and jumped backwards in order to avoid being burned. Too late, mummy gal. Gari said, as he leaped towards her, glowing fist reared back. Explosion dash, lightning release, thunder blade. A white and dark blue blur crossed between the two of them, accompanied by the sound of crackling electricity, and Gari saw how his arm was cut away from the rest of his body. Got you. Ran said, gripping her electricity-infused tanto. Shit. Gari said, as he broke his momentum for the sake of jumping back. He looked at his sliced arm, which was starting to slowly regenerate. Quickly, let's try to overwhelm him now that I crippled him. Ran called, as she and other nearby ninja went to chase him. The reanimated explosion release user ran away. Maki sighed in relief, as her eyes focused on Pakura. Good. With that IWA ninja out of our hair, our chances of sealing her are all the greater. While Maki's reasoning was right, greater chances didn't necessarily translate into good chances. And Pakura, weaving more hand seals, was about to show that. Several flaming orbs appeared around her, and start to spin around her body, their speed progressively increasing. Maki and Raku adopted defensive stances. Ruka, let's counter this. Together, like we did before. Maki said, as she started making hand seals. You got it. Ruka replied. Scorch release, blast wave ring. The orbs spun so fast, they almost looked like a ring of fire. Said ring then exploded outwards in a wave of blazing winds. However, the two kunoichi were ready to counter this. Water release, water wall. Wind release, great breakthrough. Once again, the combination of wind and water created a powerful torrent that managed to stop Pakura's jutsu from advancing, creating yet another cloud of steam result of the heated air coming in contact with the cold water, blinding all combatants. Ruka, get close to me. Back to back. Maki called, pulling the other kunoichi towards her. She'll take advantage of the cloud of steam to ambush us. We can't let our backs exposed. You got it. Ruka said, as she obediently rushed to Maki's side. Knowing Sensei's hatred of Kiri Ninja, she'll attack Ruka first, Maki thought, as she looked around. The moment she makes her move, I need to act quickly if I want to catch her before Ruka is injured. Sorry for using you as bait like this, Ruka, but this is our best chance to beat her. Long seconds passed by, and Pakura didn't seem to make any attempt at attacking them. The cloud of steam started to slowly dispel, restoring their visibility and depriving Pakura of a chance to ambush them. Don't lower your guard, Ruka. That's what Pakura-sensei is expecting us to do, Maki whispered. Ruka merely nodded. Then, it happened. The sound of footsteps. Light and soft, but still audible. And just like Maki was expecting, They came from the direction Ruka was facing. It was now or never. I got you, sensei. Maki triumphantly thought, as she made a hand seal. Multiple razor cloth whips. More whips made of cloth emerged from under Maki's bandage, and circling around Ruka, lunged themselves at the attacking Pakura. The bandages stabbed themselves into the undead Kunoichi, stopped her on her tracks just before she could get close to the Kiri Kunoichi. We caught her. Attack now, Ruka. Maki commanded. Understood. Ruka said, as she hastily made several hand seals. Water re-dash, but then, much to the two Kunoichi's shock, Pakura exploded in a fiery blast, violently hurling both women into the air, while burning their clothes and some their skin, before they fell back into the ground with a loud thud. Maki's cloth armor protected her from the blast, and while injured, she could continue fighting. Ruka couldn't say the same. Even if the Kiri Kunoichi was still alive, the injuries caused by the explosion were too grievous to allow her to continue fighting. An explosive clone. Bakura-sensei knew that I would expect her to attack from Ruka's side, and send a decoy to bait me, Maki frustratingly realized, as she fought off the pain and battled to get back on her feet. However, Maki didn't have time to contemplate on her blunder, as she saw in horror Pakura, this time the real one, she presumed, leaping at her with 3 flaming orbs spinning around her body. She couldn't fight and protect the injured Ruka at the same time. In their current situation, she could only think in one course of action. Sealing art, protective cloth dome. Sealing art, hardening seal. Whips of cloth shot from Maki's body, and wrapped themselves, forming a dome around her. As the dome formed, glowing seals started to appear on the pieces of cloth, solidifying and hardening it in order to resist external attacks. One of Pakura's orbs smashed against the cloth dome, making the seals to glow even brighter, but it was unable to breach it. Not that it was going to stop the reanimation from continue attacking. I'm sorry, Maki, it pains me to be the one to end your life, Pakura sorrowfully said as she continued bombarding the barrier with more scorching orbs. But I have no choice in my actions. Meanwhile, not far away from that, Maki's students, Matsuri, Yukata and Mikashi, following their sensei's orders, stayed away from the zombie ninjas, and resigned themselves to fight against the white Zetsu clones exclusively. Fire release, Great Dragon Fire. Wind release, Wind Scythe. Manipulated attack blades. Streams of fire, blades of wind, and flying kunai and shuriken all found their mark, killing or severely maiming many of the white Zetsu clones. Though, no matter how many of them took down, more rose to take their place. It felt like their numbers had no limit. I'm starting to get a little tired, Yukata complained. I know, but we have to keep fighting. The more of these things we kill, the easier time we'll have Sensei and the stronger ninjas fighting the zombies. Matsuri encouraged, as she kicked a Zetsu clone coming close to her. And if we can beat them, then getting rid of these things will be much easier. Mikashi was going to say something, but the bespectacled youth then saw something through the corner of his eye. He looked up, and saw a multitude of greenish-yellow projectiles arcing towards them. Everybody, take cover, he shouted. Get close to me, Matsuri said. As Yukata and Mikashi did, Matsuri pulled out her Johio, and made it spin above her and her teammate's head as she channeled chakra through it for added power. The next second, a rain of projectiles that appeared to be made of concentrated powder peppered the area, hitting allied ninja and white Zetsu clones alike. While the projectiles had a corrosive effect on the human ninja, and the ground as well, as multiple holes were opened by the missiles that missed their mark, the white Zetsu clones were unaffected. Thanks to Matsuri, thought, both her and her teammates avoided being hit, as Matsuri's spinning Johio deflected a couple of missiles that would have hit them. What kind of jutsu is that? Matsuri asked, as she shook some of the corrosive powder from her weapon. I don't know, but it was like nothing I've seen before, Mikashi said, quickly adjusting his glasses. It came from the west. And I'd say it was cast by more than one ninja. Maybe we should try to find the enemy who used that jutsu and get rid of them, Matsuri suggested. Otherwise, it's going to make fighting these creatures all the harder. Yukata and Mikashi nodded. However, before they could move, the ground started to shake, and a Zetsu brute emerged from underground. He let out a powerful, inhuman roar, while raising his four muscular arms in an intimidating pose, making Yukata to let out a high-pitched shriek. It seems the enemy read our minds, and didn't want us to interfere with their snipers, Mikashi dryly noted. Let's get rid of this guy as well, Matsuri said, unimpressed. Come on Yukata-chan, between the three of them, it will be piece of cake. If you say so, Matsuri-chan, the terrified raven-haired girl whimpered. The Zetsu brute made the first move, and charged towards the trio of Suna ninjas, each of his steps making a booming noise. Closing the gap in less than 2 seconds, he tried to smash Matsuri with a vertical slam with two of his arms, but both she and her teammates jumped backwards, and the giant Zetsu's fist only hit the ground, cracking a crater of moderate size open. Such strength. If that thing hits us, we're done. Mikashi observed with some unease. Agree. Let's keep our distance and fight from afar. Matsuri said, as her hands flew through hand seals. Wind release, breakthrough. Brown-haired girl exhaled a powerful gust of wind at the large Zetsu variant. However, much to her surprise, the mutant Zetsu made a couple of hand seals as well, before opening his mouth and breathing a stream of fire at her. The fire was magnified by Matsuri's wind jutsu, and soon the brown-haired girl saw a massive wall of fire ready to engulf her. Matsuri-chan. Yukata yelled. However, Matsuri already found a way out. Rather than cancel her jutsu, she aimed it towards the ground. The stream of wind she was blowing propelled her upwards, elevating her above the torrent of flames just it passed under her position. However, before she could sigh in relief, she saw much to her horror that the mutant Zetsu was also in front of her, one of his fists reared back. When did he jump dash? Her thoughts were interrupted by the incoming punch, which sent her flying back against the ground. She managed to cover herself with her forearms just in time, and the armored vambraces on her forearms prevented her bones from breaking. Still, that didn't make the fall any less painful. The mutant Zetsu landed with a loud boom, and dashed towards the fallen Kunoichi. It's time for you to die, Suna scum, the giant Zetsu roared. That moment, several kunai with explosive notes attached to them landed around the mutant Zetsu, detonating a second after that, engulfing the large creature inside a chain of explosions. As this happened, Mikashi and Yukata rushed to aid their unofficial leader in their sensei's absence. Matsuri-chan, are you okay? A worried Yukata asked. Let me heal you, Mikashi said, as he placed his hands over Matsuri's worst bruises, and applied the mystical palm jutsu. Yes, I think so, Matsuri said, as Mikashi's healing slowly alleviated her pain. She looked at her vambraces, which had been completely shattered, and removed them completely, leaving her arms bare. But yes, that guy is as strong as his appearance suggests. Not to mention resistant. Look, Mikashi said. When the clouds of dust and smoke raised by the chains of explosions dispelled, the Zetsu was still there. There were some wounds and burns across his body, but not only did they barely affect the monster, but were slowly beginning to heal. Nothing but a direct hit with powerful attacks will bring him down, Matsuri deduced, as she stood back on her feet once Mikashi finished patching her up. Maybe a combination between more explosios directed with Mikashi-kuen's blade manipulation and Yukata-chan's fire jutsu, aimed for the head. Easier said than done. That guy's as fast as he's strong, Mikashi pointed out. Then I'll force him to stop. When I give you the signal, attack, Matsuri said, as he pulled out something from her ninja tome pouch and put it inside her mouth. Matsuri-chan, what do you plan to do? Yukata asked. Matsuri didn't reply. She pulled out her Johio once again, and started to spin it as she ran towards the giant Zetsu. The mutant creature smirked widely upon seeing the Sunakunoichi running towards him. What, you didn't have enough? Hee hee, very well, if you're so eager to die, the Zetsu brute said, as he took a fighting stance. Matsuri threw her weapon at the giant Zetsu, the dart at the end of the rope easily stabbing into the Zetsu's surprisingly soft flesh. The giant Zetsu, however, grabbed the rope and pulled Matsuri towards him with all his might. Something that Matsuri already expected, as the force of the pull didn't offset her balance, while pulling out a kunai with her free hand. Once she reached close combat distance, Matsuri brought the kunai down at the Zetsu's head. Unfortunately for her, the Zetsu was quicker, and grabbed her wrist with one of his arms, while using his two lower arms to grab Matsuri's body. That was a mistake, little girl, the Zetsu said with a grin. Now die dash, however, before the mutant creature could tear the Sunakunoichi in half, Matsuri spat what she holding inside her mouth, hitting the Zetsu's left eye, before said object exploded into a cloud of smoke. Ararg! My eye, the giant Zetsu screamed as he unwittingly dropped Matsuri. The Sunakunoichi quickly pulled out two more kunai, and stabbed them on each of the Zetsu brute's knees, forcing him to fall on them. Mikashi-kun, Yukata-chan, now! Matsuri called. Blade manipulation. Fire release, Great Dragon Fire. Multiple kunai with explosive tags attached to them flew towards the Zetsu, before finding their marks, sinking themselves into either his face or around his head. It was then followed by a stream of fire that detonated said explosives. Multiple chunks of white flesh were splattered everywhere, signaling the fact that the giant Zetsu had indeed been destroyed. Yes. We brought him down. Mikashi shouted, pumping his fist in triumph. Matsuri-chan. That was so brave. Yukata said, as she rushed towards her friend. I don't think I would have been able to do that without freezing completely. Thanks. Though, I was quite terrified. That thing could have ripped me in half easily, Matsuri replied. Not to mention, I had to make sure the smoke bomb didn't burst inside my mouth and dash. Matsuri's words were interrupted by the sound of nearby explosions. It wasn't less the explosions themselves, which happened quite often around them, and more where said explosions came from. That's where Maki-sensei is fighting, Yukata said in a whisper. Turning at said direction, they recognized their sensei's protective cloth dome, with Bakura relentlessly bombarding it with her orbs of heat. Maki's students didn't need to speak. A shared look and a nod is all what they needed before the three of them headed to assist their sensei. Maki was resisting as best as she could her former sensei's onslaught. So far, her defensive seals were resisting, but she could feel them eating more and more bits of her chakra each time Bakura hit the cloth dome. And while Maki would eventually run out of chakra, Bakura didn't have to worry about that. Come on somebody. I need some help. Maki cried, hoping a nearby ally could lend her a hand. Said cry for help was going to be addressed. Don't worry, sensei, here we are, a female voice said. Matsurino, she cried. This time, she no longer feared for her life, but for her students' lives instead. Wind release, wind scythe. Fire release, Great Dragon Fire. Ignoring her own safety, and that of Ruka's, Maki undid the dome, and saw her three students facing one of the most dangerous ninjas Suna had ever produced. Making a couple hand seals, Bakura generated 3 of her scorching heat orbs, which started to spin around her body. Maki's eyes widened in horror. Get away from her. Maki shouted. Come close to me, now. Thankfully for her, her students listened, and fell back to their sensei's position. Are you okay, sensei? Yukata asked a bit worried. I am. But Ruka isn't, Maki replied, as her eyes drifted towards the fallen Kiri Kunoichi. Mikashi, can you help her? Her wounds appear to be much more serious than what I'm capable of healing, but I'll do my best, the bespectacled boy said, as he kneeled beside Ruka and started to treat her wounds. Meanwhile, Matsuri and Yukata placed themselves at each side of Maki and adopted fighting stances. So, what's the plan, sensei? Matsuri asked. So, your students returned, Bakura observed, and fixed her eyes on them. You should have listened to your sensei. This fight is too big for you. Maybe. But we aren't going to fight alone. We're going to help Maki-sensei to beat you. Matsuri proudly stated. Like, totally. Yukata added, her love and pride in her sensei overcoming her fear, even if barely. You better take them away from me. I don't want to kill the next generation of Suna ninjas, and I don't think I'm able to hold back, Bakura warned them. I did try, but they're way too stubborn for their own good, Maki replied, as she inched close to her two students. Too stubborn for their own good? Why does that sound familiar to me? Bakura asked, sending Maki a taunting look. However, said look was replaced by one of worry and even horror. Maki, watch out, I'm going to attack again. Bakura leaped forward, her three orbs of heated air spinning around her. Maki didn't have to tell Matsuri and Yukata to put some distance. Beware of her jutsu. Scorch Release is nothing like any other elemental combination. It works by boiling the water in your body, leaving you a mummified husk, Maki warned them. Don't worry, sensei, we will be okay. Yukata assured her. Being confident is good, but this is Bakura we're talking about. Even without her bloodline limit, she is still one of the most powerful ninjas Suna has ever produced, Maki insisted. I will fight her head on. You two cover me and attack when you see any openings. Understood, Matsuri replied. You got it, sensei. Yukata added. Alright, Maki took a deep breath and closed her eyes for a second. After opening them, she shot her former teacher a determined stare and charged forward. Here I come, sensei. Bakura didn't reply and merely summoned another two orbs of heat on each hand. Just like how Maki was expected. And now that Bakura had her hands occupied, Maki sent several whips of cloth at the undead Kunoichi's ankles, which tightly wrapped around them. However, Bakura quickly infused one of the orbs into her hand, and making a chopping motion, the cloth whips were swiftly cut. Bakura repeated the process with the other hand, and tried to punch Maki. Aiming for my legs when my arms were busy, Bakura recollected. Smart, but you aren't the first one to try that. Even if Maki managed to jump aside just in time to dodge the fiery punch, she could feel the unpleasant heat warming her skin way too much. Her cloth armor wouldn't prove much protection for such attacks. Our turn, Matsuri-chan. Yukata said, the Ditzy Kunoichi realizing that Bakura was wide open, as she formed hand seals as fast as she could. Fire Release, Flame Cannon. Certain Kill Treasure Tool Meteor. Matsuri launched her Johio at Bakura once again, while Yukata exhaled a fireball in tandem. It didn't appear that the undead Kunoichi was in position to dodge, but just like Maki said, Bakura didn't become one of Suna's finest by relying exclusively on a powerful blood limit. Scorch Release, Heat Blast. Aiming one of her hands aside, Bakura released the heated air infused into her hand in the form of an explosion that propelled her sideways, avoiding both attacks. No! Matsuri cried. Not bad, girls, not bad, Bakura praised. Maki trained you good. But Bakura was interrupted when Yukata's fireball, just before passing her, split into three smaller fireballs, two of them turning to each side, and another turning upwards. One of those smaller fireballs managed to hit Bakura in the legs, blowing one of them. Yes. Direct hit. Yukata cheered, pumping her fist into the air. Bakura made a backflip and landed on her good leg, while waiting for the other to regenerate. Now that she can't move as good, we should press the attack. Matsuri urged. Agreed, Maki said. But let not change the strategy. I'll deal with her directly. And when I tell you, attack again. Use those very same attacks. The same? But Pakura-san will be ready for dash, do not question me, just do as I say. Maki insisted. I know how to defeat her. I hope whatever plan you have, Maki, it will be good to bring me down, Pakura said, still standing on one leg. And honestly, you should listen to your students. The same attacks won't work twice. Maki didn't reply. She generated 2 whips of cloth from the bandages under her wrists and channeled chakra through them, making them rigid, solid, and sharp, like blades of cloth that could be used as if they were swords. Maki engaged her former sensei in close combat, harassing her with powerful and fast swipes, not letting her use ninjutsu. She will try to hit my other leg in order to make me lose my balance completely, Bakura thought, seeing through her former student's movements. I'm sorry, Maki. I thought I taught you not to use the same strategy on the same opponent more than once. And indeed, just like she foresaw, several whips of cloth appeared from under Maki's bandages and lunged at her good leg. However, this time Pakura was ready. Rather than aiming for the whips, she changed her target. She brought her hands together and made several hand seals. Fire release, Great Dragon Fire. Maki jumped backwards while covering hid her arms, but she was too close to Pakura and was unable to dodge the wall of fire, which quickly engulfed her. All she could do was channel even more chakra through her cloth armor in order to make it sturdier. Maki-sensei. Matsuri cried. Don't worry about me. Attack, now. Maki urged, as she fell to the ground on her back, her cloth armor being on fire on multiple spots. Matsuri and Yukata followed her orders, and ignoring her sensei's plight, unleashed their attacks once again. Fire release, Flame Cannon. Certain Kill Treasure Tool Meteor. Once again, Matsuri's dart and Yukata's fireball flew towards Pakura whom, at that moment, her leg finished regenerating. I can dodge the Johio easily. And the splitting fireball, while clever, has a glaring flaw in its design, Pakura thought, as she placed herself in front of the fiery projectile. The fireball will split in 3, 2 projectiles going sideways and the other upwards. Meaning that the best way to dodge it is standing in front of it. And Pakura's prediction turned to be true. When the larger fireball split into 3 smaller ones, they changed their course and passed her by harmlessly. Just as I expect dash, Pakura was about to say, when she caught something from the corner of her eye. What? From the ground, Maki launched yet another whip cloth at her. However, probably due her current position, Maki's aim was a little off, and Pakura only needed to sidestep in order to dodge the attack. So, you were using your students' attacks as distractions, and tried to catch me off guard, Pakura noted. Not bad, Maki, but dash, I wasn't aiming at you. Maki furiously replied. Huh? That moment, Maki's cloth whip wrapped itself around Matsuri's Johio, who was still moving past Pakura. Maki then pulled the cloth back, making the Johio spin around Pakura, wrapping the rope against her, pinning her arms against her body, before maneuvering it back towards Matsuri, who caught it expertly, and pulled with all her might. What the dash? Pakura asked, as she tried to break free. Sorry, sensei, but this is the end. Cloth binding jutsu. Wasting no time, Maki generated even more whips of cloth, which wrapped themselves around Pakura, starting from her legs, before moving upwards, until the undead Kunoichi was completely trapped inside a cocoon of cloth. As the final touch, Maki placed a chakra suppressing seal on the cloth prison, making sure Pakura wouldn't be able to escape. And then, Maki fell on her knees. Don't worry, sensei, she sorrowfully said. Soon you'll go back to your eternal rest. The solemn moment, predictably, didn't last, as Maki heard her 2 female students rushing towards her. Sensei! Yukata cried in joy. We did it! Matsuri shouted, elated. We beat Pakura of the Scorch release. They won't believe when we tell them. Yes, we did. Good job, girls, Maki congratulated her students. However, this battle is far from over, and we can't let the enemy free Pakura-sensei. Now go and take her to the rear guard for safekeeping. The ninja there will know what to do with her. You got it, sensei. Yukata said, still high from the victory rush. We'll come back as soon as we can, Matsuri promised. The two girls grabbed the bandage-made cocoon and leaped away. Maki meanwhile decided to return with her remaining student and check how Ruka was doing. Plasma release, light of death. The head of the disappeared Sotoku clan fired his signature jutsu at the Uchiha brothers. However, rather than a straight line, he instead moved it in a wide arc, in order to hit both Sasuke and Itachi. Both brothers used the body flicker to quickly evade the attack, which carved another furrow into the ground, burning the grass around it. The creepy voice in my head told me to decapitate you and collect your Sharingan. Akashi gleefully said. And you know what? I agree with him. Many were the fools who tried to steal the Sharingan for their own, Itachi replied. So far, none of them had succeeded. Technically speaking, one man did. The very same man that was now controlling Akashi like a puppet. But Itachi doubted that Orochimaru would have been able to get his hands on a Sharingan without taking advantage of some chaotic event like the Uchiha insurrection. Still, Itachi hoped Orochimaru wasn't listening at that point. There's a first time for everything. Akashi replied, and Itachi had to suppress a flinch. The undead Sotoku clan head made more hand seals, before firing one of his signature jutsu. Plasma release, light of judgment. Itachi pumped chakra into his legs, and leaped into the air just as the orb of plasma hit the ground where he had been standing on, resulting in another explosion. The shockwave pushed Itachi higher into the air. Something the Uchiha was counting on, but his enemy saw as a mistake. Itachi bit his thumb and started to make hand seals. You can't dodge while you're in mid-air. Akashi boasted, as he pointed his index and middle fingers at the older Uchiha. Plasma release, light of death. Summoning jutsu. Itachi thrust his hand down, creating a sealing array mid-air, followed by a burst of smoke, just before the destructive beam pierced it. After a couple seconds, Itachi emerged from said cloud, riding the back of a giant crow. Sasuke, now is your chance. Itachi shouted from the sky. I'm way ahead of you. Sasuke said, as he appeared right behind Sotoku, ready to deliver a swing from his electrified katana to the undead's neck. Akashi, however, proved once again to have excellent reflexes and reaction time when he turned around and parried the blow with an electrified kunai. Trying to catch me off guard won't dash, fire release, Phoenix Scarlet Claw. Alerted by several whirring noises coming from above, Akashi jumped back just in time to avoid a flurry of fire-infused shuriken from pelting him. He gritted his teeth and looked at the flying Uchiha with eyes full of hatred. Oh, so you plan to blindside me from above? You think you're so smart, don't you? Akashi growled, as he started to make hand seals. Another sphere of plasma appeared between his hands. Plasma release, light that burns the sky. Thursdaying both arms upwards, he tossed the sphere into the sky in Itachi's direction. The giant crow managed to evade the attack easily, and it lost between the clouds. Panic creeped through Sasuke after his Sharingan analyzed that jutsu. Itachi. Sasuke warned. I know, Itachi calmly replied, as his eyes drifted towards the clouds above him. He didn't hit me because I wasn't his target. Get ready, whatever comes now, it's not going to be pretty. Not far away from there, Natsu Hyuga was fighting alongside other allied ninjas against a large group of white Zetsu. Her lack of power meant that she wouldn't be of much help against the stronger reanimated ninjas, so she had to deal with the Zetsu clones and made sure they wouldn't get in the way of the ninjas fighting the undead. She lamented not being able to fight at Itachi's side, but she tried to find some comfort in the thought that what she was doing was also important as well. Still, She couldn't help but worry about Itachi and Sasuke, to some extent, and take advantage of her Byakugan in order to steal a peek at how the Uchiha brothers' battle was going on. So far, what she saw didn't fill her with hope. The reanimation Itachi and his brother were fighting not only possessed a ridiculously destructive jutsu, but the man seemed to be motivated by an intense hatred towards the Uchiha, which made the fight rather difficult for the brothers. She saw him prepare an attack that carried an absurd amount of chakra, and tossed it towards Itachi, riding on a giant crow. Much to her relief, Itachi evaded the attack. Good, she thought. Come on Itachi, I know you can defeat this opponent. I have faith in Dash. However, Natsu's thoughts were interrupted when her Byakugan noticed something. The last attack the undead ninja had used against Itachi didn't merely disappear into the sky, but its chakra spread evenly among the clouds above them. Her already naturally pale face lost all trace of color when she realized what was going to happen. Everybody, take cover, she warned. Sadly, not many people heard her among the chaos of the battle, and the few who did simply asked her what was going on. The answer came in the form of the dark blue and gray clouds turning reddish-orange, before golden beams of energy started to rain down from above, creating huge blasts upon impacting. The golden meteors and the explosions they caused didn't seem to discriminate between allied ninjas and white Zetsu clones, catching both of them in their blasts. Soon, most fighters were more concerned with dodging the lethal attacks rather than fighting the enemy. What the hell is this? An IWA ninja asked. Who cast this jutsu? Akiri Kunoichi cried. Who cares? Run for your lives, a Konoha ninja shouted in desperation. Some ninjas with earth affinities tried to create protective domes made of rock in order to shield themselves from the rain of fiery death, but the meteors blasted through them as if they were nothing. Others tried to use fire, water, and lightning ninjutsu to counter the meteors, to varying degrees of success. Even making them detonate prematurely was better than letting them land. From what I can see, the meteors have a mix of fire and lightning chakra, meaning that water jutsu are the best way to counter them, Natsu thought. Unfortunately, unlike Hinata-sama and Hanabi-sama, I don't know how to use elemental ninjutsu. Maybe Hinata-sama should try to encourage our clan to stop looking down on traditional ninjutsu and relying on the gentle fist exclusively. Her thoughts were interrupted when her Byakugan caught another meteor that was about to land close to her. She ran away as fast as her legs brought her, seconds before the meteor crashed where she stood seconds before. Even if she managed to avoid the initial explosion, she was caught in the shockwave, which violently hurled her forward, crashing against a small group of allied ninjas. Thankfully, neither she nor the ninjas that unwillingly cushioned her fall were hurt from the hit. If we survive this battle, that's it, the former branch house member grimly thought. The fuck's going on? Kuratsuchi yelled. On the good side, the firestorm coming from the clouds was doing a magnificent job clearing the sky out of those annoying flying Zetsu clones. On the bad side, Kuratsuchi risked sharing their fate. She was trying to dodge the incoming meteors, but was having a hard time maneuvering. I need to get rid of the lava armor, it's hindering my moves, she thought in realization, and with a single hand seal, the lava armor clinging to her body fell apart and dropped to the ground below. Even if she could fly more freely now, the short distance the meteors were coming from also made dodging them much harder, forcing the Tsuchikage to return to ground level. Needless to say, Sasuke and Itachi were also taking the brunt of what was Akashi's most powerful jutsu. And given that they were closer to the reanimated ninja than the rest of the army, more meteors were landing around them. Thanks to their training, skill, and the Sharingan, they were able to predict the trajectory of the meteors and jump to a safe place. However, they were nearly caught by the explosions more than once. The explosions dug multiple craters into the ground, spread flames, and brought down trees struck by the meteors. Soon, Sasuke and Itachi were surrounded by fire and fallen trees, with no place to escape. This is your end, Uchihas. Akashi boasted, before letting out a sadistic laugh. Now disappear the same way my clan did. Sasuke and Itachi continued their deadly dodging game, as the two of them tried to desperately come up with a plan to stop the deranged and powerful undead ninja. Given his jutsu, he created the perfect conditions for my Kirin. However, as long as his jutsu is active, I won't be able to use it, Sasuke thought, as beads of thought trickled down his face. It was hard to tell if it was due to the increased heat or his growing desperation. Probably both. And to add insult to the injury, the guy didn't even move. Given that it's his jutsu, maybe the meteors won't hit him. Hey, that's it. Knowing what to do, Sasuke gripped the handle of his katana and rushed towards the enemy, dodging the incoming meteors as best as he could. Itachi saw what his little brother was doing and chased after him. Sasuke, what are you doing? This is no time for such reckless actions. Itachi called him. We already tried caution, and it didn't work. Sasuke shouted back, as he slowly bridged the gap between him and the enemy. His Sharingan gleamed in anticipation upon seeing how close he was. And this won't work either, brat. Akashi shouted. Suddenly, a meteor landed in front of Sasuke. Even if the Uchiha managed to stop in time to avoid the initial blast, the shockwave hurled him backwards. Itachi managed to grab Sasuke, but the force of the impact made him drop on his butt. His Susanoo quickly formed around the two of them, the Yata mirror appearing on the left arm raised upwards to shield themselves from the falling rain of fiery death. Damn it, Sasuke, what the hell are you thinking? Itachi was about to ask, before he noticed something with his Sharingan. Oh, I see. Very smart, Sasuke, he whispered. You must be a truly exceptional Uchiha in order to master Susanoo to such degree, Uchiha, Akashi said, as his tone seemed to reflect genuine admiration. That will make my victory over you all the sweeter. And no, that jutsu won't save you from the destructive power of my bloodline limit. Destructive indeed. Be careful you aren't hit by your own attack, Sasuke taunted. Akashi laughed uproariously. Ha ha ha. You dumb Uchiha. My jutsu won't target me. The area of effect around the initial casting point is completely safe. I knew you guessed that, given that you were trying to get close to me, but I shouldn't have expected so much from your clan. Are you sure about that? Itachi asked, smirking confidently. Akashi knew the Uchihas were trying to play a mind game on him. Still, he couldn't repress the urge to look up and prove the Uchihas wrong. He was confident he could spare a quick glance, since his hated foes weren't close enough to attack him. So his eyes moved up, and much to his shock, he saw a meteor that was about to land right on top of him. Akashi let out a yell and jumped away just in time to avoid being obliterated. However, there was no explosion when the meteor hit the ground, much to his confusion. It took him a couple seconds to realize what had happened. A fucking genjutsu. I knew it was a trick. He shouted in anger, before making a hand seal, and sent a burst of chakra through his body. However, as he was doing that, he didn't realize that he had jumped out of the safe zone, and another meteor landed near him. This one did result in an explosion that sent him flying away. However, his flight was interrupted when he saw a blade made of golden flames erupting from his chest. What the? He babbled, as he turned around. He saw that Itachi Susanoo was now holding a sword made of golden flames in one of its right hands. A gourd formed in the other right hand, as he felt pulled towards it. How? Yes, I figured out how your jutsu worked, Sasuke explained. Though I didn't want you to get close to you in order to get away from the meteors, but to put you under a genjutsu, whose purpose was to make you leave said safe zone. That's how you use that jutsu of yours, right? You stay in one spot and watch how the meteors burn everything else to ashes, Itachi continued. But if somebody made you leave that zone, you aren't used to dodge your own attacks, are you? Shit. Akashi cursed, as he was slowly absorbed into the gourd. Don't worry, your suffering will end soon, Itachi said, as he stood up. In the meantime, you shall be sealed. Once the deranged undead ninja was completely sealed, his jutsu was cancelled, and meteors stopped falling from the sky. Finally, his constant yammering was even more annoying than those meteors, Sasuke said, as he got back on his feet and shook his clothes from possible dust. This fight is over, but the battle is far from being won, Itachi said. Come on, I'm sure there are far more reanimations out there that need to be sealed. Sasuke nodded, and the two brothers returned to where the main battle was taking place. Meanwhile, back in the thick of the battle, Ran and a few other allied ninjas were trying to beat Gari. Bodies kept piling around him the longer the fight went on. Some tried to overwhelm him with numbers, but such tactic didn't work given the former IWA ninja's bloodline limit, whose jutsu had a wide area of effect. This didn't go unnoticed to the undead ninja's enemies, as the allied ninjas were becoming more and more hesitant to attack him, given the sheer power of his jutsu. What's wrong, guys? Don't tell me you're afraid of me? Gari mockingly asked. His taunt only made the ninja around him take a step back. Well, if you're not going to move, don't mind if I take the initiative. Explosion release, devastating napalm. Gari slammed both hands into the ground, generating a row of explosions in a straight line, killing the ninjas directly caught in the explosions, and tossing those near them around the place, Ran among them. The Kumo Kunoichi tried to get back on his feet, but much to her horror, Gari had decided to target her as his next victim. Don't think I forgot about the arm you sliced off. Gari shouted, ignoring the fact that said arm grew back shortly after, as he prepared another explosive jutsu. Exploack. Suddenly, Gari was yanked mid-air by an invisible force, pulling him towards an unspecified point, until he felt a strong hand clamp over his neck. What? Gari asked, realizing that the one holding him by his neck was an attractive blonde woman with a piece of cloth covering her left eye. It didn't take him long enough to recognize her. Tsunade? Ding ding ding, winner. Tsunade mockingly said, before placing her other hand on Gari's head. Ninjendo. Using her Rinnegan powers, Tsunade ripped Gari's soul out of his body, which started to fall apart into dust and ashes the moment she dropped it. Satisfied with her one-hit kill, Tsunade looked around, seeing allied ninjas fighting white Zetsu clones and reanimations. Soon, she was joined by more ninjas, all of them medics, such as Shizun and her female students. It seems that we arrived just in time, Tsunade-sama, Sakura mentioned. Not in time. I can see quite a lot of dead bodies littering the battleground, Shizun pointed out. Yes. However, that doesn't mean we can save those who are still alive. Spread out, and help those groups who are having the more troubles. Tsunade ordered. Her subordinates nodded, and did as she asked. Now, let's see what else I can do. Shirado. Tsunade pointed her arm at an incoming group of white Zetsu clones. Said arm morphed into a mechanical cannon, which started to gather light particles, before it fired a powerful blast of chakra at the group, instantly obliterating the white Zetsu directly hit, and greatly damaging those around them, sending them in every direction. Damn, that was even better than during the training. Tsunade cheered, as her arm morphed back to normal. Though this Rinnegan shit consumes quite a lot of chakra. Fortunately, there's plenty of food around here. I'm not much of a fan of vegan buffets, but guess I can't complain. Dansho Tenin. Tsunade spread her arms outwards, as she used the Deva path to telekinetically pull two normal white Zetsu clones to one of her arms each, just like she did with Gari. The moment she touched them, she started to quickly drain their chakra. The more chakra they were drained of them, the Zetsu started to wither and shrink as if they were plants that have been deprived of water for far too long, before they were reduced to piles of dust. Ah, that hit the spot, Tsunade said with a smirk of satisfaction. Oh look, there's a tormented soul that's in need of salvation. And a good beating since we're at it. With Tsunade's arrival, the tide of the battle was turned in the allied ninjas' favor. The reanimations and white Zetsu clones, even the stronger variants, were simply no match for the power of the Rinnegan. Once all reanimations were destroyed by Tsunade, the remaining white Zetsu decided to flee. Or were ordered to flee. Not that it made any difference. And thus, the first battle of the Fourth Ninja War came to an end with a victory for the allied ninja forces. Despite the victory, it left some people with a bittersweet taste in their mouths, wondering if they would have been able to win had Tsunade not showed up for help. After that, Kuratsuchi ordered for her division to set up camp in the middle of the battleground, given that the battle has cleared most of the trees and rocks, so the medics of Tsunade's division could start properly healing the wounded. Meanwhile, at the Manane graveyard, Obito didn't say anything or react in any way when one of the Zetsu informed him about their defeat. He merely teleported away, leaving Orochimaru alone in the cave they were using as an improvised command center. Though, despite being on the losing side and losing all the reanimations he had deployed for the battle, Orochimaru was nothing short of excited to the discovery he had made. Kukuku, so they gave the other Rinnegan to Tsunadeheim, the Sannin said to no one in particular. That may complicate things but also simplify many others. If I play my cards right, I might be able to get my hands on not just one but both Rinnegan. When they exited the cave where the other end of the chakra portal was located, they were greeted with a sight not unlike Earth: mountains, rivers, forests, the kind of environment you would see on Earth. Couple that with a blue sky with a sun bathing the lands above in its light, and one would think they didn't left Earth. Of course, they didn't take long to realize that they weren't on the moon's surface, but under it. And the sun that provided light wasn't the same sun that illuminated the Earth, but an artificial construct, probably created and or powered with the Otsutsuki superweapon. When Hinata looked at it with the Tensigen, she could see a chakra barrier surrounding it. The Otsutsuki superweapon must be there, but I have the feeling that charging headfirst will result in a messy death. We should better look around and try to gather information that may help us in our endeavor, she thought. With the vast area of vision the Tensigen provided her, Hinata found several villages around the place, and thus they decided to inspect one of them to see what they could find. Thanks to Sai's giant ink birds, they managed to arrive there in a minimal amount of time. For safety reasons, at Shirsue's insistence, they decided to land in the outskirts of the village. You know, I told you that the village is completely empty, Hinata insisted. There are no enemies waiting to ambush us. I know, but better safe than sorry, Shirsue replied. I know that your Tensigen can see very far and nothing we know can hide from it, but there's no harm in being cautious. I agree with Shirsue-san, Nori added. This is the enemy's domain. Not just that, but we're very far away from the Earth and thus, there's no way of communication or getting any reinforcements. Let's watch our step. Understood. I know what's at stake, Hinata assured them. Alright, I think we should split to cover more ground. The village isn't too big, so we won't be that far away from each other. Make sure there's always a ninja with you in case enemies appear. Everybody with a Byakugan, keep it active at all times in case Tonari's minions decide to pay us a visit. They all nodded at Hinata's instructions, formed small groups, and scattered around the abandoned village in search for clues. Forests of the Land of Fire, 2nd Division Camp. Nighttime. As night fell over the Land of Fire, Kuratsuchi's 2nd Division had just finished setting up their camp for the night. The mood was, overall, cheerful. Despite the number of casualties has been higher than most would have expected, those who weren't mourning the loss of their comrades and friends were celebrating that the war started with a victory for the Ninja Alliance, calling it a sign of a good omen. The wounded were being treated at the tents that formed the makeshift infirmary, and those assigned guard duty kept watch over the outskirts of the camp until their replacements would take their place in a couple hours. Those who were neither injured nor on watch duty were free to relax, eat something, and spend time with their friends if they were lucky enough to be in the same division as them. The commander of the division, Kuratsuchi, had no such time to relax, unfortunately. As soon as the camp is set up, she had a ninja from the Yamanaka clan, wearing a helmet that concealed half his face which was connected to a machine, which would greatly expand the range of his abilities, link her up with HQ so she could deliver her report on the battle. Congratulations on your first victory as a commander, Kuratsuchi, Anoki's voice said in her head. I knew you wouldn't disappoint us. Thanks, Gramps. Though I just wish I could feel the same, Kurtosuchi replied. I had the feeling that without Tsunade's intervention, the course of the battle would have been much different. What matters the most is the result of the battle, Jiraiya's voice intervened. And that's that we won. Though that only means that the enemy is going to push back even harder now. Kuratsuchi, what information have you gathered on the enemy? I think I'll need to write it down in order to include all the details, but I'll try to give you a summarized version. First of all, the white Zetsu clones. You said that the clones used in the attack on Konoha were all human-looking, right? Indeed. Though some of them could merge into a single creature to form a much stronger being, Jiraiya replied. Did you encounter such variant? None of my ninja reported such thing happening, though one of the Zetsu variants we fought was much larger than normal, with large muscles and additional limbs, Kuratsuchi began. Maybe they merged before the battle began, a new voice, one belonging to an older woman, offered. I find that unlikely, Chiyo-san, Anoki replied. Since my granddaughter alluded to more than one Zetsu variant. Right. Other than the larger ones, which we called brutes, there were Zetsu clones whose right arms, and only the right arms, looked like some sort of mass of tangle vines with sacs, ending in a cannon shaped like a flower. They could fire projectiles made of compressed corrosive spores from great distance. We called those snipers. We can only assume that the Zetsu are undergoing mutations in order to make them more specialized fighters, Jiraiya said. Anything more? Yes. Some Zetsu grew wings that allowed them to fly. Some of them call them flyers. I call them miserable sons of bitches, Kurtosuchi growled. I was planning to oversee and direct the battle from above, but those fuckers completely wrecked my plans. An air force. As much as it's painful to admit, that's a smart choice on the enemy's part, Chiyo said. Though now that we know that, we can take the proper steps to counter it, Jiraiya said. If that's all about the Zetsu, what about the reanimations? I believe there were many. Indeed. Ninjas from many villages, all of them with powerful bloodline limits, Kurtosuchi began. We managed to capture and incapacitate about half of them before Tsunade's arrival, who took care of the other half. Then, using the Rinnegan's abilities, Tsunade was able to permanently destroy the ones my ninja were able to capture before. If I know Orochimaru, I'd dare to say that he didn't even send his strongest minions yet, Jiraiya contemplated. And is merely testing the waters. I know from his attack on Konoha that he can resurrect former Kages. This time he might not be as inclined as to send them from the get-go, and may save them for later. Kuratsuchi rolled her eyes. If these ninja with bloodline limits that made a number on her forces was just Orochimaru testing his forces, she didn't want to imagine what she had to face when the Snake Sannin decided to go all out. She hoped that Tsunade would be close to lend her help. Still, she decided to bite her tongue. What are your orders, Supreme Commander? Kurtosuchi asked. For the time being, remain there and hold your position, Jiraiya told her. Send a warning if you're under attack again. I'll send you a toad if I need you to move your division or just a fraction of it. Now, you and your ninja should take a rest as long as peace lasts. Though, make sure you don't fall prey to night attacks. Anoki reminded her in a mildly worried tone. Those undead ninja can fight constantly without needing to rest, so Orochimaru may think in a night raid. Don't worry Gramps, I already assigned many ninja to night guard shifts. I'm not new to this, Kurtosuchi said, rolling her eyes for a second time in a short span, and feeling thankful that her grandpa couldn't see her doing it. Kuratsuchi out. As she felt the mental link vanish, Kuratsuchi exited the tent, and headed to get a much-needed snack. Kuratsuchi wasn't the only one who wanted to fill her stomach after spending so much energy and chakra just a few hours ago. Many ninjas were also enjoying an admittedly not all that tasty, but very nutritious dinner composed of ration bars, surrounding the many bonfires scattered around the campsite, illuminating the place with an orange light. First day of the fourth ninja war, and we're still alive, Matsuri mentioned, before taking a bite of her ration bar. I guess if we can keep this up until the very end, we will be good. Mikashi and Yukata nodded, before the only boy of the team decided to share her thoughts. Easier said than done, given all the trouble Pakura gave Maki-sensei, Mikashi spoke. Not to mention the other reanimations. And we'll need to win battles without Tsunade's help. She can't be in every battlefield at once. Hey, we were doing pretty good, aren't we? Yukata replied. Why are you being such a downer? I'm not being a downer, I'm being realist, Mikashi insisted. We barely dash, Yukata is right, you know, a new voice said. The trio of Suna ninjas turned their heads at the source, and saw their sensei taking a seat close to them. Keeping a high spirit is paramount to win a war. Your teammates need you at your best, Mikashi-kun. Think how to best keep them alive, not how we're doomed. I will. Sorry, Maki-sensei, Mikashi said, bowing his head. It's okay, no need to apologize. I know how you feel, Maki said. You guys are young, and have been Thursday-ted into a war. It's normal to be afraid. What it's not acceptable is to wallow in fear. That's what your friends and teammates are for. You can rely on them whenever you need them. See? Everything's going to be okay as long as you have us to take care of you. Matsuri said, as she ruffled the bespectacled boy's hair, in an attempt to lighten the mood, much to his annoyance. By the way, Matsuri, this is for you, Maki said, as she handed the brown-haired girl a medium-sized item wrapped in cloth. After undoing the cloth wrapping, Matsuri's eyes gleamed with joy upon seeing what her sensei gave her. New vambraces. Matsuri squealed, as she wasted no time and put them on, despite the fact that they weren't in battle. The supply caravan arrived not long ago. They brought us lots of new kunai, shuriken, body armors, and medical supplies. I asked if they also had vambraces, and fortunately, they also brought some, Maki explained. Thanks a lot, Maki-sensei. Matsuri replied. Don't worry, I'll make sure this ones last longer before they break. Maki let out a weary sigh. Please don't do that. Your life is worth much more than some mere forearm guards. If you need to break them to live, do so, the Suna Jonin said, before clearing her throat. So, this was your first battle in a real war. How are you feeling right now? I'm still a bit shaken from before, but I feel better now, Yukata replied. Same as Yukata-chan. I was kind of afraid. And I still am, since we'll be called into battle again, Matsuri replied. Though I'm not as uneasy now as I was before the war began. I know what to expect now. Mikashi began, his lips quivering, sounding a bit hesitant. All the people dying around us, even if most of them were ninjas we didn't even know, it was horrifying. It is, Maki sadly agreed with a nod. And before you ask, no, it doesn't get better the more you see it. If it does get any better, then you should start worrying. I see, the bespectacled boy said. I was so glad I could keep that Kiri Kunoichi alive until the real medics arrived the scene. You mean Ruka? Yes, I'm sure she's really grateful to you, Maki earnestly told him. Sensei, you fought in the Third War, did you? Yukata asked. You had to be around our age when that happened. You're right about your latter assessment, but no, I didn't fight during the Third War, Maki confessed, surprising her students. I was a mere genin, and genin aren't allowed in the front lines. At least, in Suna's case. And what did you do while it happened? Mikashi asked. Patrol the village alongside other genin, and sometimes I was made part of the groups that provided escort to the supply caravans to the front lines, Maki explained. It was a job I hated, and thought that I could do more in the front lines. Boy, was I naive back then. It's normal to think that. After all the training we undergo in the academy, And then under a Jonin sensei when we do small jobs even a civilian could do, it feels like our talents are being wasted, Mikashi said. Though a war might be going too much in the opposite direction. Exactly, Maki agreed, nodding. What do you think about us, sensei? Do you think we're ready? Yukata asked. Maki chuckled in response. It's a bit late to be asking that, isn't it? Maki asked, making Yukata look a bit uneasy. She did catch the hidden meaning behind that question, though. As my students, keeping you alive is my responsibility, and sometimes I feel afraid that you might die out there, maybe because I didn't train you as well as I could, or because I'm not there to protect you. Today you three showed me it's not the case. In fact, I might have been the one biting the dust if it wasn't for your timely arrival. Yay! We're useful. Yukata cheered. Maki smiling happily upon seeing that her words managed to soothe the raven-haired girl. Of course we are. All of us did a good job during our first day of hell, Matsuri interceded. Let's keep doing our best so we can help end this war as soon as possible. Meanwhile, not far away from there, another team was also enjoying some food and peace across another bonfire. One of those team members was also being in the company of his girlfriend, whom he hasn't been with in some time. So, how do you feel, Niji-kun? The redhead asked. I'm fine. Just like I was the other 5 times you asked, Niji told Karen, trying to resist the urge to roll his eyes. You treated me yourself. Do you doubt your medical capabilities so much? I know. But you used the celestial gates. And your body is quite the wreck when you do that, Karen replied. I want to make sure you're at your best. You can breathe in relief knowing that that's the case, Niji insisted. Gai-sensei, though, might be a completely different story. He had to open up to 5 gates. Not only did he need more medical attention, but he'll have to remain bedridden for the next day, at the very least. Karen's expression turned into a scowl upon hearing that. I don't like the 8 gates at all. They may give you a power boost, but given the backlash, I'd say they aren't worth it. They can signify the difference between life and death, Niji rebuked. I only try to use them as a last resort against opponents my current power and skill are not enough to beat. If you're looking for a power boost, why don't you ask Naruto to teach you Sage Mode? It's pretty neat, and carries almost no risk, Karen explained. Naji quirked an eyebrow. No risk? Didn't you say that you could turn into a statue if you don't control it properly? That's mostly at the beginning, Karen said with a dismissive hand wave. Once you learn to control the nature energy and properly mix it with your chakra, it's pretty easy. I'm afraid that, for the time being, that won't be an option, given that we're in the middle of a war, Niji replied. But I may take on your offer once the war is won and we return home. Karen seemed to be satisfied with her boyfriend's answer, and didn't press the issue any further, letting the 2 Konoha ninjas fall into a comfortable silence. Gay spent a couple minutes watching the fire and enjoying their food. Once Karen finished, she took out a paper and a pencil from her backpack, and started to write something. What are you writing? Niji asked, noticing what his girlfriend was doing. Writing a letter to my mom, just so she can know that I'm fine, Karen told him. Though I won't be able to tell her about the details of this battle. Mail is screened to avoid intelligence leaks. Wait, why are you writing her? Isn't she part of the medical division? The Hyuga asked. I remember she told me she works at the hospital as a medic nin. Karen shook her head. Mom knows some healing jutsu, and her chakra has the same regenerative properties as mine, but unlike me she isn't a medic ninja, but a normal medic. Normal medics aren't made part of the army, so she was left in Konoha, working at the hospital. And truth be told, I'm glad for that. That way I won't have to worry about her when I'm in the battlefield. She will worry about you as long as the war lasts, though, Niji pointed out. I know. That's why I'm writing her, Karen said, this time she being the one repressing an urge to roll her eyes. Though, now that you bring the topic, what about your dad? I think he's here, right? As in, here in the war, not here in the same division as us. He's part of the first division, alongside Hikari-sama, Niji replied. While I do worry about him like any son would, I'm confident in his ability and skill to get out of every battle alive. Not that he's alone, though. He had many comrades to rely on. Karen nodded, as she continued writing her letter to her mother, with Niji sometimes stopping her to ask what she was writing in particular, and even offering some input about what she could tell Mariko. After that, Niji and Karen continued talking with each other until they were too tired to remain awake, and returned to their respective beds. Today, you used the Rinnegan for the first time in real combat, Tsunade-sama, Shizen observed, as she adjusted the microscope. How was it? Tsunade and Shizen were alone in one of the many medical tents that had been used before to attend injured ninjas. Now that the tent was free, Tsunade had her first apprentice do a check on her body, to see if there was any negative side effect. Conan's words about how only a selected few could use the Rinnegan never ceased echoing in her head. Technically, she was among those selected few, but better safe than sorry. So far, I didn't feel any different than before, Tsunade said. Rinnegan Jutsu puts a heavy toll on my chakra pools, but as long as I use the Preta path to keep them full, I believe there's no risk. That's something that intrigues me, Shizen continued, as she began her analysis. How can you do that? You aren't an universal chakra receptor. You shouldn't be able to absorb chakra like that. Maybe the Rinnegan converts the foreign chakra to match mine before it's absorbed into my body, the Slug Princess guessed, though not even she was too convinced about her hypothesis. I mean, it works, and that's what matters. So you didn't suffer any form of exhaustion, Shizen told her. I already told you I didn't, Tsunade replied. Hell, those punks weren't able to land a single hit on me. This little eye is sure something. Careful, Tsunade-sama. You don't want to go mad with power, do you? Shizen advised, though there was a hint of mockery in her tone. The blonde Sannin rolled her eyes. You know that I take little joy in fighting. I only volunteered to get that eye because I'm the best one to take on that burden, Tsunade insisted. Once the war is over, this eye will go into the fire, and I'll get my original eye back. And enough chit-chat, focus on your job, Shizen. I'm doing that right now, Shizen replied, adjusting the microscope. Red blood cells seem to be okay, as long as leukocytes triglycerides are at a normal level and wait, what's that? Worry crept through Tsunade's back as she heard Shizen say that. What? There's some sort of unknown enzyme here, Shizen said, as she increased the focus of the microscope. An unknown enzyme? What is it doing? It is a benign or malign one? Tsunade asked, sounding more worried. No, wait, it's not unknown. It's similar to another enzyme present in both Rin and the white Zetsu clones, Shizen said, as she continued her observation. And it's doing the same thing as that other enzyme. It's taking dead cells, and using them to create new cells. But that's, Tsunade began. Yes. The basis of your grandfather's regeneration, which also slowed down aging, Shizen said. As we speak, those enzymes are rejuvenating your body. Wow, but wait, that can't be the Rinnegan's doing, right? Tsunade asked. Then, a realization hit her. Of course. Those Zetsu guys I kept draining of their chakra. How many of them did you drain, Tsunade-sama? Shizen asked. Hell if I know, I stopped counting after 25, Tsunade nonchalantly said, shrugging. Still, this is a wonderful news. Can you tell if the change is permanent, or it will fade over time? I can't tell right now. I'd need to make periodic checks during a long period in which you don't absorb any more chakra from those Zetsu, something you won't do as long as the war lasts, Shizen said. Though I'm inclined to think it might be permanent. We know those Zetsu clones were made from your grandfather's DNA, and you're his direct descendant. It is possible that your Senju chakra assimilated the chakra of the Zetsu clones and acquired some of its capabilities. Tsunade walked to a nearby table with medical instruments on it, and grabbed a small scalpel. Let's make a small experiment, Tsunade said, as she made a small cut on the palm of her hand. Blood started to trickle. As both women watched, they saw that the wound didn't close, and blood continued flowing. Eventually, Tsunade healed the wound herself with the mystical palm jutsu. No regeneration. Rin would take less than a minute to heal such a small wound. Hey, you just absorbed them today, maybe the healing factor hasn't set already, Shizen said. If you drain more, you may accelerate the effect. And it may reverse the permanent damage caused to my body by my creation rebirth, Tsunade said in awe, before she smiled again. I had a feeling it was me who had to get this eye. I'm never going to ignore my gut feeling ever again. Karen wasn't the only member of Shizen's medical squad taking advantage of their deployment to spend time with her boyfriend, as Sasuke and Sakura were also making each other company while resting in front of a large bonfire. Before that, the Binket spent quite some time healing the youngest Uchiha's wounds from his battle, which prompted her to ask what did he do to end up so bruised and beaten up. Sasuke told Sakura about his fight alongside Itachi against the resurrected Akashi Satoku, and his deadly and destructive plasma release blood limit. So, you had to fight a guy that carried the bloodline limit you tried to emulate, Sakura recounted. There's no way that can be a coincidence. Yes. Some might say that fate has a strange sense of humor, Sasuke replied humorlessly. Sakura merely shook her head and smiled. Come on, don't be that mad. You already beat that guy, isn't that what matters? Itachi did most of the job, Sasuke complained. I was mostly in the way. If I could only control the Mangekyo Sharingan better, that's not what you just told me, Sakura countered. Weren't you the one who risked his life to put that guy under a genjutsu, which allowed your brother to deal the killing blow? I wouldn't have needed to do that if I had a better hang of my powers, Sasuke repeated again. We we will fight against even stronger opponents in the future. And a clumsy improvised tactic won't be enough then. I need to fight alongside Itachi as his equal, not be a burden for him to protect. Sakura frowned, and crossed her arms. Sasuke, that's not true, she said in a somewhat chastising tone. And I'm sure Itachi doesn't see you that way. Itachi doesn't see me through an unbiased perspective. He's my older brother. Plus, whatever he thinks doesn't matter if it stands opposed to the truth, Sasuke replied. Sakura sighed, and decided that her boyfriend was way too stubborn to make him change his opinion on himself. If she wanted to help him, she'll have to take a different approach to the Uchiha's problem. Does the Mangekyo Sharingan still makes you relieve? She swallowed a little, as she herself shivered at the memory, despite the fact that she wasn't even there. That moment 3 years ago? Yes. Shursui told me that the flashbacks would cease once I learned to forgive myself. But no matter what I do, they persist, Sasuke said, drifting his gaze down. You still feel guilty for that, huh? Sakura said, placing a finger under her chin. Did you talk with Naruto about the incident? Many times. He told me that he understands why I did what I did, that I didn't have any other options, and that he would have done the same have our roles been reversed, Sasuke replied. Did Itachi and Shursui told you what they did to forgive themselves in order to soothe their consciences? Sakura continued. Shursui swore to use the power he had awakened to help others, and to be the best person he could be. Itachi said that, while he will mourn father and all the Uchihas he killed, he didn't regret his actions since they were for the good of the village, and continues to serve the village as best as he can as a proud Konoha ninja, Sasuke said almost mechanically. Sakura guessed he was repeating what his Kaosing and older brother had told him without understanding it much. And knowing that, what have you done then? Sakura asked. Sasuke turned at Sakura, and looked as if somebody had dropped on his head a bucket of ice-cold water. What do you mean what I have done? Sasuke repeated. You told me what Itachi and Shursui did. Did you do anything in particular? Any kind of resolution or vow? Sakura asked. Sasuke took a few moments to gather his thoughts before he could answer, despite his answer couldn't be any shorter. No, was all he said. Maybe that's the problem. That you lack a clear goal to set your mind to. Something that will set you on a path to redemption, Sakura explained. But, what I'm supposed to do? I already told you that neither Naruto nor his family are mad at me and understand what I did. According to them, I have nothing to atone for. Sasuke replied, his frustration building up. Unlike Itachi and Shisui, I awakened the Mangekyo Sharingan without killing anybody, either directly or indirectly, yet I'm the one having the most trouble getting over it. It would be almost comical if it wasn't so frustrating. Yes, it looks like it. And I can tell that you aren't somebody who doesn't deal with frustration, Sakura pointed out. Though, if you want my opinion on the issue, I think you're tackling this backwards. What do you mean, backwards? Sasuke asked. Don't you see? You're so focused on getting over the side effects of the Mangekyo Sharingan that you can't see the path in front of you. Take a look at what your brother and Shisui did. They overcame their trauma of the Mangekyo Sharingan not because they aimed to do that, but as a side effect of setting a different goal. Try to emulate them. Set a goal. And you'll see how in the end, you can leave that moment behind. Then what could be my goal? Be a better person? Sasuke asked. Am I not good enough? You're a wonderful person, Sasuke-kun. But once again, you're tackling this from the wrong angle, Sakura insisted. Forget about the Mangekyo Sharingan. Do a little introspection. Look inside yourself, and the solution will appear before you. You make it sound so easy, Sasuke said. I know it's not. I'm not even an Uchiha, so I can't even begin to imagine what you must be going through, Sakura replied. I'm only making educated guesses based on what I know about you and your clan. That comment made Sasuke smirk a little. You are always quite the smartass. And proud of it. Sakura said in a foolhardy tone. Though, if this troubles you so much, maybe you should talk about it with your brother. Where is he, by the way? Sakura asked, looking around, expecting Sasuke's older brother to be sat near him. Itachi doesn't have that much time to spare with me lately, Sasuke said, as he narrowed his eyes at a certain point. Sakura followed his gaze, and finally located Itachi on another bonfire. He was talking with a young Hyuga woman, probably the same age as him. They were sitting very close to each other, not unlike Sasuke and Sakura, and talking and laughing together. The two of them appeared to be having a nice time. It wasn't hard for the Pinkette to notice that something more than mere friendship was building between them. She's cute. I think they make a nice couple, Sakura said, smiling at the sight. Do you know her? Natsu Hyuga. Former branch house member. Chunin of average ability. She mostly worked as escort and caretaker of the younger main house Hyugas, such as Hinata and Hanabi, Sasuke said, as his eyes glared daggers at the woman sharing a good time with his brother. Such hostility didn't go unnoticed to the Pinkette. Whoa there. I only said if you know her, not her professional record. Plus, why do you act as if she's your natural enemy? Has she behaved in an unpleasant way to you or something? No, not really. She's been nothing but polite and gentle towards me, Sasuke replied, his voice almost growling. That doesn't make sense. Come on, Sasuke, do you think that Sakura was about to say, before she stopped herself as a realization waned upon her. Her mouth curved into a wide, cheeky grin. Oh, I see what's going on here. You dislike that woman because he stole your brother from you, don't you? Sasuke frowned upon hearing the Pinkette's suggestion. Don't be ridiculous. Do you think I'd indulge in such childish behavior? Sakura's eyebrow arched even more. Do you really want me to answer that question, Sasuke-kun? His girlfriend asked in a half-mocking, half-taunting tone. Come on, Sasuke-kun, That I'm so stoic and don't give a damn about anything facade you put on might fool others, but you can't fool somebody who has been with you for so long. Especially as close as we are now. Deep down, you're somebody who wears his emotions on his sleeve. I think you're mistaking me for somebody else, Sasuke replied, crossing his arms, as he averted his gaze in annoyance. Blonde, whisker marks, loud and obnoxious. Some girlfriend you are if you mistake me with him. Har har, Sakura pretended to laugh. Yes, Naruto is also somebody very earnest, the only difference is that he doesn't bother to hide it. Deep down, he and you aren't that different. And right now, you're mad that somebody else is hogging your precious brother's time from you. What do you know? You're an only child, Sasuke spat back. Perhaps. But like I said before, I'm quite smart, and I have eyes, Sakura insisted. You always told me how Itachi was always there for you, as long as he wasn't busy with a mission. I believe that the fact that Itachi only spent time with you made you take him for granted. Sasuke didn't say anything, but Sakura found his silence pretty telling. At least, until Sasuke decided to say something. Maybe I do, Sasuke finally admitted. When I was little, Itachi was the person I admired the most. And I still do. However, he was always busy with high-profile missions and training, and I could barely spend time with him. Then the Uchiha insurrection happened, Sasuke said, flinching a little upon recalling that memory. And Itachi went from being my older brother and my role model to being everything I had, alongside Shisui. I noticed that, even if Itachi's workload wasn't any smaller, especially after becoming the Hokage spy master, he made more effort to spend time with me. Sakura placed a comforting hand on her boyfriend's shoulder. Come on Sasuke-kun, that woman isn't going to steal your brother from you. Shisui-san married Shizen-sensei, and you have me. Don't you think your brother deserves to have somebody special too? I suppose he does, Sasuke admitted. Plus, how would you feel if Itachi was mad at me for dating you? Sakura continued. Sasuke didn't say anything, he merely let out an unintelligible grunt of annoyance. Yeah, thought so. I hope you don't suggest me to befriend her next, Sasuke said, dreading the answer. Why not? She and Itachi might end up dating after the war is over. Wouldn't be the most logical action to try to at the very least, try to be on good terms with her? Otherwise, your relationship with your brother is going to suffer as a result, Sakura told him, making the Uchiha to sigh. And his reaction makes Sakura frown. Come on Sasuke-kun, don't be such a sourpuss. You said she's pretty nice, right? She is, he confirmed. Then try to put those childish thoughts and try to get along with her, Sakura said, as her face illuminated when an idea dawned upon her. Oh, I know. When we have time, the four of us should go on a double date. That way, not only you'll get to know Natsu better, but you can also spend time with your brother while we're at it. What do you think? That doesn't sound half bad. Sasuke's underwhelming response made Sakura stand up and scowl, as she placed both fists on her hips. Not that bad. That's all what you have to say, she complained. Sasuke, however, managed to smile a little. Good. It's, indeed, a good idea. Befitting a smartass of your caliber. Sakura's scowl disappeared, replaced by a happy smile. She sat alongside Sasuke once again, and gave him a kiss on the cheek. That's what I wanted to hear. Not far from there, the aforementioned older Uchiha brother was also enjoying some relaxing time with a girl he had hoped she would become his significant other. Still, Itachi didn't hold his breath. Despite he and Natsu clicked from the very beginning, he was aware that it was the conflict around them that brought them together, and wasn't sure if the relationship would continue during times of peace. That didn't mean that neither Itachi nor Natsu were going to enjoy each other's company for the time being, though. How are you doing, Itachi? Natsu asked. I heard from the medic Neens that they spent quite some time with you. Itachi smiled reassuringly at her. Nothing too serious. Just a case of chakra exhaustion. The fight against the Sotoku reanimation pushed me to my limits. I can't imagine what it has to be fighting against somebody of that power, who on top of that regenerates endlessly and has an infinite supply of chakra, Natsu commented, shaking her head. That jutsu with the fireballs raining from the sky was his, right? Itachi nodded. Indeed. He was a nightmare to deal with. I shiver to think of the ninjas who fought that clan way back in the Warring States period. Not just one, but a whole clan of them. But in the end, you won. Natsu added, hoping to cheer Itachi up. The Uchiha smiled and nodded. I won indeed. Though admittedly, I don't think if I could have won if it wasn't for my foolish little brother's stunt. Foolish? What did he do? Natsu asked. He managed to figure out how that last jutsu worked and how he could exploit it to our advantage. But doing so involved running through a zone where those meteors fell non-stop, Itachi explained. Natsu gasped and covered her mouth with her hands. Don't worry, he's okay. I made sure nothing bad happened to him. Natsu exhaled in relief. That boy is sure reckless. That, he is. I think he was counting on me to realize what was going on, and fortunately for both, I did, and between the two of us we managed to defeat him, Itachi replied, before letting out a sigh. I think I need to have a talk with Sasuke about doing something like that again in case we're forced to face such a formidable enemy. It was risky indeed. But if in the end you got the desired result, isn't that what matters? Natsu asked. Itachi's eyes looked at her with genuine surprise. Sometimes, the safe path isn't the best route. Sometimes you need to take a risk if you want to gain something. Itachi chuckled in response, making the Hyuga frown a little. Did you find anything I said funny? Natsu asked. Or do I look like the kind of person who doesn't like risks? The latter, Itachi admitted. I'm sorry if my assumption offended you. No, it's okay. I don't look the part, do I? Natsu replied, chuckling as she relaxed a little. I confess that I'm not somebody who took many risks in my life. Not that I had the chance to take them, given the circumstances of my birth. But I did see others taking risks, some of them for my sake and others in the same situation. If it wasn't for them, I would still be a slave in all but name to the main house. You talk about the recent reforms of the Hyuga clan under Hinata, Itachi pointed out. Natsu nodded. Hayashi-sama was a good clan head. Strong and competent, who wanted to keep our clan as powerful as it was. But even if he knew that the clan division was wrong, he was too afraid to upset the status quo. The Hyuga was a clan attached to traditions, and believed that making reforms of such scale would cause infighting. And weaken the clan from the inside, Itachi continued, earning a nod from the Hyuga. Exactly. However, Hikari-sama and Hinata-sama knew that the clan couldn't be strong if it continued divided as it was. They worked to undo that division, first by abolishing the branch and main houses altogether, earning the ire from our more traditionalist clanmates, Natsu explained. And then we took an even greater risk when we allowed Hinata-sama to use her new power on us so she could remove the caged bird cursed seal. But in the end, both risks paid off. I'm glad that they did. I did hear that life as a branch house member was awful, Itachi observed. It was, Natsu confirmed. But sometimes, risks are too great, and not worth the potential reward, Itachi began. My clan took the risk of launching a coup d'état against Konoha, hoping that it would allow them to claim the respect and power they were owed. Not only did it fail, resulting in most of the clan wiped out, but it greatly weakened Konoha as well. Hell, Konoha would have been weakened anyway had the coup been successful. Natsu shook her head. Those situations couldn't be more different. The branch house was genuinely oppressed under the main house. The Uchihas just wanted more power. And accept my apologies for bad-mouthing your dead clansmen. Apologies accepted, but they weren't needed to begin with, since you only spoke the truth, Itachi replied. What I'm saying is a risk worth taking, if the price are the lives of many people. It would depend on the risk. And the lives. Are they willing to take the risk, or is that choice taken from them? Natsu replied with a question of her own. I think one is free to risk their own life as they see fit, but shouldn't endanger the life of others. That's a good answer, I admit, Itachi replied. But would you agree with a loved one putting their life at risk, regardless of how good the outcome may be? You were afraid of losing your little brother, aren't you? Natsu guessed. It's normal that you feel that way. I don't have siblings, but I can't imagine it's not just that, Itachi cut her, shaking his head. After losing mother and father, Sasuke is all what I have. The only thing that could be saved from the old Uchiha clan. After I failed to stop the insurrection from happening, I had no option but quell it by cutting half my clansmen down, including my own father. I just can't let more Uchihas, much less my own brother, to meet their end before their time comes. I can't do it. I try not to let my worries show up in front of him, but shh, Natsu whispered, interrupting the Uchiha as she moved close to him and placed her arms around his shoulders. It's okay, Itachi. Like I said, it's perfectly normal to feel afraid for your brother. He's young and confident, and his strength and skill might make him overestimate his abilities. But I saw him in action, and he's as powerful as you are. Not as powerful as you think. He still has trouble mastering the Mangekyo Sharingan, and his inability to overcome the trauma that awakened it's driving him mad, Itachi explained, before he let out a weary sigh. This is why I didn't want him to awaken the Mangekyo Sharingan, since I feared it would cause Sasuke more troubles than it's worth. I'm afraid that he isn't in the best state of mind to be in the middle of a war. You mastered yours. Didn't you offer him some advice? Natsu asked. Both Shursui and I did. Though, in this matter, it's something he has to figure out himself. Our advice can only help him so much, Itachi explained. You are pretty close, aren't you? Natsu asked. Especially after such tragedy. Maybe not as close as he'd want. Our relationship has been a little complicated since then, Itachi explained. Though I want to believe things have been getting progressively better. I do believe they got better too, Natsu replied with a nod. That would explain why your brother hates how I'm spending so much time with you. Yeah, that would— wait, what? Itachi interrupted himself. Sasuke hates you? When did you get that idea? His disposition towards me has been pretty cold. He wants to be civil, but can't suppress his hostility completely, Natsu explained, much to Itachi's consternation. Was he rude to you? Did he tell you to get away from me or something like that? Itachi asked, fearing the answer. Natsu, however, merely laughed. No, not at all. I think that deep down, he knows he's being silly. But he's doing a poor job hiding it. In fact, he's been glaring at me for quite some time. Much to the annoyance of his girlfriend. What? Itachi asked again, as he looked at where Sasuke was. It appeared that Sasuke noticed, and quickly pretended he was looking elsewhere. And just like Natsu said, Sakura was trying to keep his attention on her. He let out a sigh, and shook his head. That boy, I think I'll have to talk with him about us. Don't be too rough on him. I'm sure that he'll warm up to me in time, Natsu insisted. But I do believe he does want your attention. Maybe he feels safer if he thinks his big brother is close. Though, now that I think about the stunt he pulled earlier, maybe he wants to impress you and earn your admiration. Sasuke already has that, and he knows it. Or he should know, Itachi replied. One way or another, I better talk to him soon. At least, before we're deployed for another battle.